perhaps 15 or 16 in the south. Through Monday evening, that band of rain continued to slide its way southwards, so eventually many places are seeing clear skies as we go into Tuesday. Into Tuesday then, there will be a mix of some drier weather, but also a few spots of rain, but more showery as we head Wednesday and into Thursday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to spend however you like. Put a new car on the drive or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio, and we are Britain's #1 news channel. I'm Nana Akua. It is 3 o'clock, and for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It is mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me in the next few hours, former Foreign Office Minister and author Mark Fields, and also political commentator Stella Chantakadu. Right, coming up in my niggle.
Historic vote shifts. You can see seat after seat where the Labour vote share is down 35% and we're up 37%. It's a direct switching.
I'll be giving my take on the turquoise tidal wave that swept Britain at the local elections last week, and I'll be asking if there's anything that Labour can do to come back from this. You won't want to miss that. Throughout the show, Labour MP Catherine West has threatened to launch a leadership challenge following Labour's disastrous local election results. Tomorrow, Sir Keir Starmer will attempt to relaunch, or what was the other word he used? He says phase 1, phase 2. The reset, I think, it begins with now, his premiership and save his job. But will that be enough? I'll be joined by our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. We'll also be bringing you the latest news on the hantavirus outbreak as Spanish authorities are evacuating passengers from the hantavirus-stricken cruise ship, or as in the words of the Sun, the virus rat cruise ship. Anchored near Tenerife. Those aren't my words. We'll be getting the latest updates from Dr Mohamed Munir. And in the interview joining me, I'm looking forward to this, former Labour MP and Starmer critic Carl Turner, he's now an independent, to discuss the latest leadership rumblings in the Labour Party and why he had the Labour whip suspended. Yeah, you won't want to miss that one. Then later on in the Great British debate, are Reform right to pledge to put migrant camps in green councils? Critics claim that the pledge is a threat, but shouldn't those who vote for open borders be the ones who live with the consequences of mass migration? My poll is live on GBNews.com. Please cast your vote. That will be an interesting result. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Bethany Elsey.
Nana, thank you. Top stories from the GB newsroom at 3:02. Britain stuck on a cruise ship hit by a hantavirus outbreak is set to be repatriated almost a month after the first passenger died from the infection. The MV Hondius arrived in Tenerife this morning, where the first group of passengers disembarked the ship and boarded a plane. The flight carrying Spanish nationals to Madrid has now left the island, and authorities have confirmed that no symptoms have been seen in those evacuated so far. British passengers, though, will be taken to a hospital in northwest England to isolate at the same hospital used as the UK's initial COVID quarantine site. The UK Health Security Agency says the risk to the general public remains low. Meanwhile, army medics have parachuted into Tristan da Cunha, that's the island in the South Atlantic, to treat a British person with a suspected case of hantavirus there. Sir Keir Starmer is under pressure after a Labour MP has warned she would move against him unless ministers acted first. The former junior minister Catherine West has threatened to trigger a leadership contest as soon as tomorrow if no other cabinet ministers put themselves forward to challenge the Prime Minister.
What I'd like to see is the cabinet locking itself in a room tonight and coming up with a plan to respond to what was the worst election result for the Labour Party that I can remember, and I've been in public life since 2001. We lost very badly in Wales. The leader lost her seat. We lost very badly in Scotland. Several very good candidates didn't win. We lost very badly in London, including the local leaders of my own borough and that of the leader of the Labour Party. This is what I would describe as an electoral emergency.
It follows a disappointing set of election results for the Labour Party, with another Labour MP and former top ally to the Prime Minister, Josh Simmons, also calling for his resignation. He's written in the Times newspaper that he's lost the country. But Sir Keir Starmer still has the support of his cabinet for now, including Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson.
The last thing that we need at the minute is the Labour Party spending months talking amongst ourselves, potentially fighting amongst ourselves, at a point at which I don't take the message from the British people to be spend more time doing that. There is a real impatience for change.
Thousands of people are attending a rally against anti-Semitism outside Downing Street. A coalition of faith leaders, major British institutions and celebrities are calling for urgent action against the hate crime, warning it's a problem for all of us to fix. The intervention comes after a string of attacks targeting Jewish Britons, including the stabbing of 2 men in Golders Green. Meanwhile, counter-terrorism police have arrested 2 people aged 45 and 52 following an arson attack at a former synagogue in East London. The man and woman have been taken into police custody on suspicion of conspiracy to commit arson. CCTV shows the fire at the building in Nelson Street in Whitechapel was started deliberately, causing minor damage. The commander of counter-terrorism policing London, Helen Flanagan, says hateful attacks on Jewish communities will not be tolerated. GB News can reveal another 200 migrants crossed the English Channel yesterday as the total number of small boat arrivals since records began in 2018 surpassed 200,000. 36% of the total have arrived since Labour took power in July 2024. That's according to analysis by the Press Association, while the remaining 64% made the journey under Conservative governments. Teachers in England are set to vote on strike action over pay later this year. It comes after teaching unions criticised the proposed 6.5% pay increase over the next 3 years. The National Education Union has threatened to hold a formal ballot in the autumn if the government doesn't take urgent action. Those are your latest headlines. Let's get back to Nana.
Thank you, Bethy. Good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. It is fast approaching 7 minutes after 3 o'clock. Coming up, Westminster is reaching boiling point with leadership speculation following Labour's disastrous showing at the local elections. I'll be joined by our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, to discuss the latest developments. Then in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, will Sir Keir Starmer still be the Prime Minister by the end of the week? Labour MP's Catherine West has threatened to challenge the Prime Minister for the leadership tomorrow, but it looks like Sir Keir Starmer is running out of time. So for the Great British Debate, I'm asking, will Sir Keir Starmer still be Prime Minister at the end of the week? Then in the next Great British Debate, would Reform UK be good for the Union? Scottish First Minister John Swinney has called for a second independent referendum vote and to make it Farage-proof in Scotland. However, he may struggle as the SNP have missed out on a majority in Holyrood following the rise of Reform. So in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, would Reform be good for the Union? Later on, we'll cross live to Los Angeles for Worldview and speak to Paul Duddridge, the host of the Politics People podcast, and where he'll be explaining why President Trump is congratulating the Scottish First Minister John Swinney. Well, that is all coming up. As ever, send me your thoughts, your comments. Scan that QR code you see on the screen or go to gbnews.com/your say. So, Labour MPs are urging the Cabinet to move against Sir Keir Starmer after a disastrous local election result. Catherine West is threatening to trigger a leadership contest as early as Monday if no senior ministers come forward to challenge the Prime Minister.
What I'd like to see is the Cabinet locking itself in a room tonight and coming up with a plan to respond to what was the worst election result for the Labour Party that I can remember, and I've been in public life since 2001. We lost very badly in Wales. The leader lost her seat. We lost very badly in Scotland. Several very good candidates didn't win. We lost very badly in London, including the local leaders of my own borough and that of the leader of the Labour Party. This is what I would describe as an electoral emergency.
I mean, I'd never heard of her, to be honest with you, but there she is, Catherine, there telling us what she thinks, and I think a lot of people would agree with her. But Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson told GB News she disagrees with those calling for Sir Keir Starmer to step down.
Catherine is a good colleague and we get on very well, but I think she's just wrong on this point. I don't take the message from the elections from voters as being spend more time talking amongst yourselves as a Labour Party and spend months in a leadership contest with all the chaos that would ensue. That wasn't the message I heard from voters.
Well, I think the message was that people are sick and tired of Sir Keir Starmer and he has to go. But, you know, whatever, Bridget, you may be fighting for your job. So can Sir Keir Starmer survive the biggest threat to his leadership yet? Well, joining me is another Catherine, but with a K. GB News' political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Well, what a mess the Labour Party are in.
What a mess. And they're now engaging in exactly what they promised us that they would not do, because they promised us calm, competent government and an end to the chaos and infighting. So the Prime Minister is saying he's going nowhere. He's given an interview saying that he wants a decade for national renewal, and he's going to make, well, it will need to be the speech of his life tomorrow, which we're told, hear about his convictions and values, and he wants to give a message of opportunity and for young people particularly, apparently. But the numbers of MPs, Labour MPs calling for him to go, is going up. This morning, we've got Josh Simons, who was previously a junior minister, who has said that the Prime Minister has lost the country and talked about saying when people whisper that high turnout in working class estates is bad for Labour, when a party fears the people it was created to represent, it is marching towards extinction. And he says millions of people are howling at us. Lord Blunkett, big Labour beast, also coming out in the last half hour or so and saying that the Prime Minister needs to pull out all the stops tomorrow and there needs to be a, quote, massive transformation. Otherwise, he needs to have a chat with his wife and set out a timetable for his departure. So let's see what tomorrow brings. But Catherine West, this backbench MP, has had enough. She's calling on the Cabinet to oust him. Otherwise, she says she's going to put herself forward, though I think her tone has softened a bit today. She's now saying, well, I'm going to listen to what he has to say. Maybe he could set out a timetable for his departure if people are not convinced. But in the meantime, the Cabinet haven't moved, I think, because the Cabinet aren't ready to move because they haven't got anybody better in position. Andy Burnham, who is very popular, Mayor of Greater Manchester, doesn't have a seat, so that would rule him out. Angela Rayner, not in the Cabinet anymore, wasn't found to have not paid £40,000 in stamp duty, something that's very easy for people to understand, which potentially leaves Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, very ambitious, wants the job to the right of the party, disliked, though, by many Labour MPs, particularly on the left. So the irony is Catherine West, this woman, is to the left of the party, and what this might do is enable Wes Streeting on the right to get in. So it's an almighty mess.
But what about Gordon Brown? Now, of all people, why would you want to resurrect that particular dinosaur? And, of course, Harriet Harman. Keir Starmer seems to think that they are going to be the answer. They will hold some key to salvaging something.
Yeah, it was quite a moment to see those pictures yesterday with Gordon Brown, who left office, 16 years ago, and Rachel Reeves, Harriet Harman too. But he's trying to shore up his position, but he's also saying, he wrote a piece yesterday talking about the status quo is broken, it needs to change, we need to be radical. Is bringing big beasts from 15 years ago going to help with that vision? I'm not sure that it is, but yeah, he's in a very, very precarious position. But of course, Labour are not like the Tories. They're not good at getting rid of leaders. They've never got rid of a sitting Prime Minister, and they will look at what happened with the Tories when they got rid of Boris Johnson without really having a plan. They ended up with Liz Truss, and we know how things went from there.
All right, Catherine Forster, thank you very much. I just know news has become so entertaining, hasn't it, really, to be honest? I mean, for all the wrong reasons, but thank you very much, Catherine. Right, 13 minutes after 3 o'clock, and the SNP's Westminster leader says that a second Scottish independence referendum is now perfectly reasonable. That is after Holyrood returned a record number of pro-independence MSPs. Stephen Flynn says that Scotland should have the chance to decide its own future. Although the SNP did not win a majority, Scottish Parliament now has 73 pro-independence MSPs, including those from the Scottish Greens. Well, we're joined now by Scotland reporter Tony Maguire, who has the latest for us. Tony, what more can you tell us about this? They just won't let the independence vote go, will they?
No, that's correct. I mean, it's been 12 years since the Scottish independence referendum where Scotland voted no. And, you know, coming into this election, John Swinney wanted to emulate Alex Salmond's 2011 referendum mandate, which was an SNP majority at Holyrood. That did not happen. The SNP came away with 58 seats, 7 short of that 65 majority. But nevertheless, he has confirmed as well that he wants to go to Keir Starmer, and he thinks that he has what it takes to request an independence referendum. The state of play has changed somewhat in a national picture as well, of course. Plaid Cymru, they are also a pro-independence party. They are a bit more slow and steady approach towards the future of an independence Wales, whether obviously the SNP is every 5 years, it seems like at the minute, and this is their 5th consecutive election win. They think the mandate is behind them, but nevertheless, Keir Starmer had made his point before. Even with an SNP majority, well, he was unlikely to grant that referendum to John Swinney. The picture up here in Scotland, we're 48 hours past those first results coming in now, and already we're kind of seeing the knives out right across the political lines. John Swinney, he said that he's looking to get that bedfellow, another party, to form a majority government to lock out Reform. But of course, Reform have come out swinging, calling it undemocratic and calling it kind of political showboating in a way. Labour and the Conservatives, they'd already said they're having none of it, quite frankly. So it looks like, you know, the Greens and the Lib Dems will be the one to answer John Swinney's call. He, of course, isn't yet First Minister of this next parliamentary term. All the leaders of the party can put their hat in the ring. It's just that with the most MSPs behind him, sure, he is most likely to carry on the job. He took over from Humza Yousaf, if you remember, as a safe pair of hands. He was there to steady the ship, but already he's coming out with the kind of rhetoric against Reform, kind of quite visceral language, really. His returning MSP, Mary McCallan, called the Reform MSPs acolytes of Malcolm Offord. You know, there's certainly no love lost here in this Holyrood group. It's going to be really interesting to see how they can all play nice, but the worries are now extending to, you know, as the most likely candidate for the next First Minister, John Swinney using this kind of language, ostracising Reform MSPs. Well, you know, the public picks up on that, and then the public thinks it's okay to ostracise Reform voters here in Scotland. Just yesterday here in Glasgow, there was a Rage Against Reform rally organised by Stand Up to Racism, and you know, we've said it here on the channel before, you know, the SNP is very quick to point the fingers at, you know, sources of division, but quite frankly, what could be more divisive for a country than to rip it out of the United Kingdom, you know? But they're now going to have to return to government, forming a majority, if they so please, in order to start getting legislation across the line. They are not in a particularly favourable position. They have lost 6 seats this year, and they are going to have to make amends to the electorate if they have any hope of getting through to Keir Starmer, let alone the Scottish electorate. So really interesting times, but you know, the conflict is already begun.
All right, Tony Maguire, as ever, thank you very much. That's Tony Maguire, he's there in Scotland. Thank you. Right, well, 18 minutes after 3 o'clock, and thousands are rallying outside Downing Street today to face down anti-Semitism in the UK. The Jewish Leadership Council says that anti-Semitism is out of control after recent attacks and is urging people of all faiths to stand up for British values. Well, joining us now is GB News reporter Doogie Beattie, who is there for us. Doogie, so talk to me about this rally.
Well, good afternoon, Nana. Always a pleasure to be on with you. And yes, we are here just at the top of the government's Downing Street, and there was about 20,000 people. It's now broken up and moved off very, very peacefully. But why they were at the top of Downing Street was to let the Prime Minister hear their frustration and most of all their anger at what has happened to the Jewish community inside Britain. The Jewish community actually integrated into society in Britain. They didn't try to change it. They worked with inside the community that was there. They served the Queen, they served the royal family, and indeed, at the end of this, they sung the national anthem. And there was people there from right across the political divide. Kemi Badenoch was first up. She was very well received. Pat McFadden came up and he struggled somewhat with that crowd. Then Ed Davies, and here's what Richard Tice had to say.
We've heard all the words, the waffle for so long from politicians, and it's counted for nothing. The scourge of anti-Semitism is getting worse, the violence is getting worse, the threats, the fear, and you know, I've said we need action, not words. We've got to ban the hate marches, prescribe and ban the IGC, prescribe and ban the Muslim Brotherhood, and also take on the weak, failing leadership of our universities that haven't dealt with the scourge of anti-Semitism that's rising in our universities with young people. And this requires courage, it requires leadership, and that has been absent for too long, and it's got to stop.
Well, Richard Tice there talking about education and how in some universities this has been this type of anti-Semitism has been allowed to breed. Well, of course, it is about educating people, and it's about educating how much jobs are in Britain with the Jewish community. Those ambulances that were burnt, of course, just weren't for the Jewish community. They were for everyone. And really, from this protest today, they're hoping that politicians will not only listen, but act.
All right, Dougie Beattie, thank you so much. You have a good afternoon. Thank you very much. That's Dougie Beattie. He was there at the anti-Semitism rally. 20 minutes after 3 o'clock, I'm Nana Akua. Still to come in my niggle, I'll be giving my take on reform's rise in the local elections. But next, in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, will Sir Keir Starmer still be Prime Minister by the end of the week? This is GB News.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Hello, good afternoon. It is 24 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's #1 news channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's time now for the Great British Debate at this hour. And I'm asking, excuse me, will Sir Keir Starmer still be Prime Minister by the end of the week? I mean, it's shaping up to be a make-or-break week for the Prime Minister. He is facing a stalking horse leadership challenge by backbench MP Catherine West, and Sharon Graham, the General Secretary of the Unite Union, has urged the Prime Minister to set out a timetable for his departure. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, I'm asking, will Sir Keir Starmer be the Prime Minister by the end of the week? Well, joining me now, former Foreign Office Minister and author Mark Field, and also political commentator Stella Chantakadu. Hi, Stella, I'm going to start with you, because you're sort of more on the left. Keir Starmer, Will he be Prime Minister by the end of the week?
By the end of the week, yes, I think so. I think the most likely scenario is that he will be forced to set out a timetable. Whether there is or there isn't an actual leadership challenge kicked off tomorrow, we will see. It looks like Catherine West, the former minister, who yesterday, very frustrated from the local election results, announced that if nobody else challenges Keir Starmer to a leadership election, then I will. And she needs to have 80 MPs backing her for the leadership challenge the leadership race rather to be kicked off. She probably has the numbers. There have been some whispers today about whether she has been convinced by her political allies to back off and wait because more time, MPs need more time, the Prime Minister needs more time. But I don't think that once this has started, I don't think you can put a stop on it. So yes, Keir Starmer will be Prime Minister by the end of the week. He will be Prime Minister next week as well. You're not going to have a new leader be voted in from one day to the next unless we decide...
Well, he might resign. I mean, he might... Then you're not Prime Minister, you're a caretaking Prime Minister until another Prime Minister comes in.
I doubt he would be doing that. I doubt I'm sure there are leadership hopefuls who would hope that they would have the kind of situation where Gordon Brown had with Tony Blair. I mean, not the one where he had to wait for years, but, a sort of you just pass on the baton. But I don't think that this is going to happen because you do have a big disagreement, a big divide in the Labour Party about the direction that they should go.
All right, then, Mark Field.
Well, self-evidently, he won't be actually gone by the end of the week. What worries me a little bit is this whole narrative that seems to be picking up that we'll have a sort of a transition that may take some time, maybe many months, and let it run until the Labour Party conference or whatever. I mean, that's exactly the problem the Conservatives got into in 2022. You'll recall the Partygate eventually brought Boris Johnson down. There was he had an election against him.
It was sort of Chris Pincher, wasn't it, really?
But it all went on for 5 or 6 months, and then you had a 3-month campaign which, Liz Truss won against Rishi Sunak, and then within 8 further weeks Sunak was in. Essentially the whole year was wasted. This is a time of real crisis, economically, internationally. We haven't got the indulgence to allow a governing party of whichever colour to go through that sort of process for a matter of months. I mean, I think with Catherine West, I knew Catherine quite well. I mean, she was my shadow when I was the Foreign Office Minister, and she ended up actually taking on much of the Asia and Pacific brief that I looked after. I like Catherine, but I can't help thinking there's a bit of her own disappointment. I was very surprised when she was fired within a year of being a minister, and I suspect that's playing part of it. I think there's also an aspect locally. Again, she's an MP up in Haringey, and part of her seat's in Barnet, where Labour did very poorly. One hand to the Conservatives, the other hand to the Greens and the Liberal Democrats. So I think that's playing its part. Listen, how this plays out, I don't know. But I think it is highly unlikely that Keir Starmer is going to be in place by the end of this year. But my worry is this whole thing drags on. Well, I think he will dig his heels in. How this plays out, I don't know whether there's going to be a stalking horse leadership battle. Obviously, Andy Burnham's fans will not necessarily want this thing to take off quite so quickly, although things, again, could move fairly fast on that score. And, of course, if you look back at, actually, people say, you can't have a Prime Minister who's not in Parliament. We did, actually, in the few weeks in 1963 when Sir Alec Douglas-Hume left the House of Lords, and then he stood in a by-election that had been put into place by the end of 1963. So that is not an impossible scenario for those who might be backing Andy Burnham. But I guess above all, I mean, as you probably know, I've mentioned here before, I've known Keir Starmer not especially well, but we were at the same college together some 40 years ago, and he's a mild-mannered guy. Well, listen, let's be honest, I think on the international stage, he has probably been the best Prime Minister we've had since David Cameron. No. Compared to most of the others who were not making much of
because I'm bored of hearing this. He runs away every time there's a problem in this country. He's been off 44 times on 44 journeys over the last less than 2 years.
Sure.
And it's usually, fortunately, sometimes it's managed to fit into the schedule where he's escaping a crisis, but they've never not had a crisis. And on the international stage, I don't think that he has done very well at all.
I think he has had...
He's scrimped and scraped around Donald Trump, and it's embarrassing. And I think he has created a coalition of the willing, and nothing has happened with them. He's created talking shop after talking shop after talking shop and proved just how irrelevant he's made this country.
But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that I am amazed, just how visceral the hatred is for Keir Starmer. But it is true, it is real. I mean, I speak to people, former constituents of mine, friends of mine, and there is this anti-feeling. But the worry I have is whoever else comes into play is going to be loathed just as much, just as quickly. And I do worry about how governable this country is.
Stella, final word to you. Or do you agree with
I think that there are very good reasons to think that Keir Starmer should be held personally responsible for a lot of the trouble in government, because I do feel like he has betrayed his own party, he has betrayed his own colleagues. If you go all the way from Jeremy Corbyn to Morgan McSweeney, he has thrown under the bus every single person he has worked with, every single MP, every single staffer who has put their faith in him, and people who have done things for him, for his career, for his success. And you can absolutely make all the jokes you want about, whether Keir Starmer was the puppet of Morgan McSweeney and Peter Mandelson, and I make those jokes all the time myself, because frankly the situation was pathetic. But there is no doubt that Keir Starmer has not acted like a man of virtue. He has not acted in the way he has led his team and his party with the moral authority that he's trying to convince us that he possesses.
Wow, well, that's from the left, so there you have it. Listen, I'll try and find some. If anyone thinks that Stella's wrong and can come back with a supporting narrative, I'd love to hear from you. gbnews.com/your say. 31 minutes after 3 o'clock, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. Still to come in my niggle, I'm going to be giving my opinion on the turquoise tidal wave that has swept the UK on Thursday. But next, in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, would a reform win be good for the Union? First, your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. Passengers have begun evacuating from a hantavirus-hit cruise ship as Britons on board prepared to be flown home to isolate at the UK's initial COVID quarantine site. Thousands of people are attending a rally against anti-Semitism outside Downing Street following a string of attacks on the British Jewish community in recent weeks. Counter-terrorism police have arrested 2 people aged 45 and 52 following an arson attack at a former synagogue in East London on Tuesday. The man and woman have been taken into custody on suspicion of conspiracy to commit arson. And Sir Keir Starmer's under pressure after Labour MP Catherine West threatened to trigger a leadership contest as soon as tomorrow if no other cabinet ministers put themselves forward to challenge the Prime Minister first. It follows Labour's disappointing election results in England and a historic defeat in Wales. Those are the latest headlines. I'll have more for you at 4 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, it's feeling cool out there and wet and windy in the far northwest of Scotland, but gardeners beware. We're expecting a frost for some of us overnight. So looking at the bigger picture, we've got a ridge of high pressure extending over us. This area of low pressure will affect Scotland and run its way southwards as we go through this evening. So wet and windy conditions this evening across much of Scotland, heavy and persistent at times across Orkney and Shetland. To the south of that, that's why we hold on to the lengthiest clear skies. But in between, this front will slide its way southwards, bringing showery outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland into Wales and Northern England. So behind that, that's where we'll see clear skies across Scotland with a few wintry flurries and to the south as well. So a touch of frost in places as we start Monday morning. Temperatures generally holding up where we have the cloud cover. So a cold, chilly start to Monday morning, brisk winds running down that North Sea coast, but a bright start for much of Scotland. A bit more in the way of cloud across Northern Ireland and across much of Wales into the Midlands and East Anglia. That's where we have the cold front, so bring some shower outbreaks of rain to start Monday morning. Now that band of rain will continue to slide its way southward, so eventually ending up into parts of London and southern parts of England as we head into the afternoon. Behind that though, many places in the north will see a fine day on Monday. Plenty of blue sky out there, but still feeling cool, especially along eastern coast where you're exposed to that brisk northerly wind. So temperatures only around 7 to perhaps 15 or 16 in the south. Through Monday evening, that band of rain continued to slide its way southwards, so eventually many places are seeing clear skies as we go into Tuesday. Into Tuesday then, there will be a mix of some drier weather, but also a few spots of rain, but more showery as we head Wednesday and into Thursday.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon and welcome. It's 37 minutes after 3 o'clock, fast approaching. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are Britain's #1 news channel. I know, it's great, isn't it? But it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, would a reform win be good for the Union? The First Minister of Scotland, John Swinney, has demanded an independence referendum for Scotland before the next general election in order to Farage-proof Scotland. All of this as Plaid Cymru are on the verge of forming the next government of Wales, with Reform UK coming in second. All of this is actually a result of a very weak Labour Party who used to be in charge of both of those parts of this country. So for the Great British Debate, I'm asking, would a reform win be good for the Union? Well, joining me now, for former Foreign Office Minister, MP and author Mark Fields, and also political commentator Stella Chantakedu. Mark Fields.
I think it would be fine for the Union. I was actually appalled by the news this morning of Stephen Flynn point-blank refusing even to discuss power-sharing matters with Reform UK. Reform got 1/6 of the votes in the Scottish parliamentary election this week. Essentially, Flynn is spitting in the face of a sixth of Scots who have made their preferences clear. But the reality is the Reform are now the only British party that are strong throughout the Union. They did very well in England, perhaps a little less so in the capital city here in London, but they made some headway out in Havering and in one or two other boroughs, such as Barking, Dagenham and Hounslow, where they've got significant groupings. But also, they came a very strong second in Wales. They are essentially second equal in the Scottish Parliament with Labour. So I don't think there's any fear for the Union. And this is, I'm afraid, just sabre-rattling. And I understand John Swinney has an agenda. Evidently, he wants any excuse to get that second referendum lined up. But he didn't get the overall majority that he was looking for in what is a very fragmented parliamentary system out in Scotland. And effectively, this is a matter for the UK Parliament. But no, I think that the country has nothing to fear in relation to Reform UK and any agenda around separatism. What it does mean, though, is nationalist politicians in Scotland and Wales do need to work with Reform, who have got a big democratic mandate.
Stella, what are your thoughts? Because Labour had a stronghold on both those areas, which is one of the reasons they kept the Union together.
Reform, because of its nature being a nationalist party, a party that puts a lot of importance on the national identity of people, is going to be playing into the hand of the nationalists in Scotland, in my opinion. So the more Reform gains more prominence and the more they debate, and the more there is a lot more discussion about the English national identity and how this is being undermined by the UK identity and the British identity, then I do think that actually Reform gaining more traction is endangering the Union. Really? On the other hand, yes. On the other hand, I don't think that there is any, I agree with Mark, I don't think that there is any actual real danger to having a referendum, because it would have to pass through Westminster. There is no such majority or appetite in Westminster for calling for a referendum on Scottish independence, or indeed on any other independence. Plaid Cymru, they had a very good election on Thursday. They are now the biggest party in Wales, but they don't actually have a concrete agenda for Wales independence or anything like that. So I do agree with Mark that I think the union is fine for now.
It's fine for now, and I don't sort of agree with you, though, with what you said with regard to reform. I think they are, and when you say a nationalist party, I think that kind of almost implies that the separate identities, it supports the separate identities of each of the countries in the Union, and I would say that Reform UK support a British identity and a collectivism with all of those countries.
I agree. I think they see themselves as being British and Welsh in Wales, British and Scottish in Scotland.
Yeah.
Hence, they've got, they did substantially better than many people expected. I mean, they did extremely well in Wales. And of course, the reality is that 84% of people living in the United Kingdom are from England. And they're not an English nationalist party. They see themselves, I think, as having a British identity that they wish to protect. So, yeah, I think there's very little to fear, other than really nationalist politicians in Scotland and Wales who are sabre-rattling for their own benefit. Very much on the left, who see Reform as being a right-wing party. And, of course, that, I think, is the biggest strength of Reform UK. In many ways, it's very easy for political commentators to think of them as being of the right, but actually their appeal goes far beyond the right.
Well, of course it does, because they've got the highest number of seats in Bradford, for example, which you would think, really? Yeah. But 29 seats in Bradford, a place that they wouldn't normally, you'd imagine, be strong in if they are...
Yeah, I mean, fairness, Bradford's got some quite nice areas like Shipley and rural areas beyond the city itself, but nonetheless, it's very good.
It does have the image that perhaps, that it might be considered not so in terms of right-wing, and it is a stronghold of other parties nearer the left. So for Reform to pick up the highest number of seats in that area really tells you something. Yeah,
I think it's spot on. I mean, actually, it's interesting. One, as I say, one has to look at the way the results played out. Reform UK can honestly say they are probably, the only strong national party that has done well across the board. And I would say, in fairness to the Labour Party, and in London, they still are the biggest single party in the capital city, with well over 700 councillors, despite, obviously, what were significant losses and a disappointing night.
Stella, any more thoughts on that?
I think that when you put a lot of emphasis on the English identity, which I do think that Reform is doing, then you do inspire a defensiveness from the other side. And this is why, for a very long time, there has been this push for the British identity to be the main thing. Now, you can have opinions about whether this is right or whether this is wrong, and I definitely have a lot of sympathy for people who in the past would have liked to celebrate their English identity, and they have been saying, I don't think that that was the correct solution. But I do think that when it comes to Scotland in particular, Reform, a lot of its policies, whether it is on Brexit and the EU, whether it is on immigration, there are a lot of people who disagree and who feel like Scotland has missed out from the sort of policies that Reform and Nigel Farage have pushed for.
All right, well, listen, keep your thoughts, your comments coming. gbnews.com/you'll say. But now it's time for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to enjoy a sensational summer on us. You could win £76,543.21, all tax-free. Here are the details.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543.21 in cash to spend however you like. That is extra cash that you could use to buy those treats you've always wanted, put a new car on the drive, or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. £76,543.21 is an incredible amount of money, and it could be all yours. For a chance to win £76,543.21 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Now, lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts. Some people say, what we've got here, we've got a nice one from Jess. She says reform are going to continue to grow in Scotland. So she believes that actually reform will grow in Scotland. And John Swinney might be saying that now, but frankly, reform will have more. John says Wales and Scotland can't have a referendum, but Starmer can defy Brexit. I hear you. I hear you. Union says, I'm sick of the SNP. We are the dafties up here voting for them. That's what he's saying. Catherine says, this is how I feel about it too. What's he talking about there? Then Christina says, how are national parties going to support their nations? Well, certainly couldn't support itself. Yeah, that is a good point. We sort of need each other. And what absolute nonsense from Stella. Reform respects the UK and Brits, she's saying. And James says the Labour Party are going to say that their issues solely reside with Starmer and pretend all is well after they've kicked him out. Well, we shall see about that, won't we? Because they're all very interesting. Keep them coming. gbnews.com/your say. But now, if you're looking for some holiday sun, here's the forecast for the top destinations in Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. An unsettled spell across central and southern Europe with some heavy showers and some thunderstorms. These will soon clear parts of Spain, moving into parts of France and also northern parts of Italy. Some real heavy downpours at times and some thunderstorms with some lightning and also some hail. But actually to the south of this rain band, across much of the Mediterranean, should be largely dry with some sunny spells. And that sunshine will continue into next week with temperatures widely in the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
The annual World Puddle Jumping Championships are at risk this year as there's an unusually dry spring, and that means there could be no puddles to jump over. Well, I'm joined now by the Wicksteed Park Director, Kelly Richardson. Kelly, this is major world news. It's of huge concern. How can you have a puddle jumping championships without any puddles?
I know, it's just typical, isn't it? It's what we love about the British weather is it's so unpredictable. You think April showers and then all of a sudden we get a dry spell. Just typical.
Now, it's a very, very good fun event. My kids, of course, they're a bit older now, but they love jumping over, mainly actually into puddles and stamping. Tell us about how do you win a World Puddle Jumping Championship? Is it the distance jumped? Is it style? Is it belly flops? How do you win it?
There are some judging criteria, height of jump, distance of splash, how much mud you get stuck all over you, but of course the most important thing is having fun. So we're really looking for enthusiasm, and the most enthusiastic jumpers and great big splashes, that's how you win.
Anyone who's been a parent, anyone whose kids have watched Peppa Pig will know this is either your best way of spending time in a park or your worst nightmare, particularly if you're doing the laundry afterwards. But without being a killjoy, we can see one of your superstars on screen there just stomping and splashing away. But Kenny, if you haven't got any puddles, what are you going to do? What's the plan?
Well, we're asking people to be creative. So, you know, this is the World Puddle Jumping, so it might normally be wet in April in the United Kingdom, but obviously some countries might be in a dry spell. So we ask people to be creative. So you can jump in a paddling pool, you can jump in the...
News, the People's Channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Good afternoon and welcome to GB News. If you just tuned in, where have you been? I mean, we're an hour through the programme, 3 o'clock next time. I'm Nana Akua, welcome. Right, now let's travel over to America and speak to the host of the Politics People podcast, Paul Dudridge, who is stateside. Right, OK, Paul, let's start. Donald Trump is talking about 8 more years. This means somehow he's going to get another term. What's this about?
Happy Mother's Day, first of all, from the United States. Yeah, he's just brilliant and he's winding everybody up. But it's like Starmer's started to say it now, that he's like in for another 8-9 years. I think he got the idea from Trump. Trump giving a speech in the a press conference the other day just said, like, you know, when I leave office in, I don't know, 8-9 years, and it's driven everybody completely nuts. It's like, because they don't know whether he's trolling now or whether he's making an announcement. This is the genius of this man. It's absolutely hilarious. And to be honest, there's a lot of political operatives. There was federal judge hearings this week for political appointments and judicial appointments who refused at committee stage in the Congress. They refused to say that Trump couldn't run for a 3rd term. So Trump is appointing judges that refuse to say that he can't run for a 3rd term. So Trump has joked before, and it's turned out to be true. So yes, Trump this week dropping the "I might be in for another 8-9 years," and it has sent the commentators scattered. It's hilarious. But yes, anyway, and now Starmer's picked it up. Now Starmer's picked up doing the same thing. It's hilarious.
But yeah, I think Starmer's just trying to convince us all that he's going to be there for that long, but I don't think so. What about this one then? Because a pastor who claimed that Donald Trump actually understands the Bible more than the Pope.
Yeah, well, you know, the Pope got involved and starts talking about politics, and because it's an American Pope, that he feels he's qualified to be attacking Trump's politics. A pastor this week has pointed out that actually Trump's understanding of the Bible and specifically the role of government as written out in the Bible is much more in line with Donald Trump than it is with the Pope, because the Pope is saying, like, basically open the borders, let everybody in. And in the Bible, apparently, according to the pastor, and I went and double checked and he's right, it says that the role of government is to protect people and protect the innocent. And that was arguably what Trump is doing. So a pastor has come out and said that Trump's understanding of the Bible is better than that of the Pope's.
Wow. Now, I hear that Joe Biden is back. I don't mean to be facetious. I didn't know that he was still around, if you see what I mean, Paul. He's back.
No, he's back. Oh, I mean, that guy is a political force to be reckoned with, as we saw in those. Yes, I think everybody's scratching their head and going, where have you been, and who are you, and did you mean to come in this door? So yes, he is. He's now endorsing candidates for the midterm elections. So I can't imagine that they're going to be too thrilled about it. But yes, he's now started to put his name in the frame about political leverage.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
and I just wanted to squeeze in the Donald Trump congratulating John Swinney. You've got about 45 seconds.
Isn't it great? So John Swinney, out of all the fantastic results that I've been watching, GB News coverage amazing, out of all the leaders that have done well or badly this week, Trump Truth Socialed congratulations to John Swinney. And John Swinney is trying to put as much distance between him and Trump. Trump, again, just like because John Swinney's accused of sucking up to Trump about the whiskey and the golf and all this kind of stuff. And then Trump comes right out and congratulates him. And so he's now Trump's best buddy. John Swinney.
Love a bit of that. John Swinney, him and John Swinney. I can't see it somehow. Thank you very much, Paul Dudridge. Always a pleasure. That is Paul Dudridge, host of the Politics People podcast, giving us all the latest stateside. Now, stay with me, because coming up in my niggle, I discuss the turquoise tidal wave that has swept the UK and just how Keir Starmer plans to handle it. But first, let's get an update with your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, it's feeling cool out there and wet and windy in the far northwest of Scotland, but gardeners beware. we're expecting a frost for some of us overnight. So looking at the bigger picture, we've got a ridge of high pressure extending over us. This area of low pressure will affect Scotland and run its way southwards as we go through this evening. So wet and windy conditions this evening across much of Scotland, heavy and persistent at times across Orkney and Shetland. To the south of that, that's why we hold on to the lengthiest clear skies. But in between, this front will slide its way southwards, bringing showery outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland into Wales and northern England. So behind that, that's where we'll see clear skies across Scotland with a few wintry flurries, and to the south as well. So a touch of frost in places as we start Monday morning. Temperatures generally holding up where we have the cloud cover. So a cold, chilly start to Monday morning, brisk winds running down that North Sea coast, but a bright start for much of Scotland. A bit more in the way of cloud across Northern Ireland and across much of Wales into the Midlands and East Anglia. That's where we have the cold front, so bring some showery outbreaks of rain to start Monday morning. Now that band of rain will continue to slide its way southward, so eventually ending up into parts of London and southern parts of England as we head into the afternoon. Behind that though, many places in the north will see a fine day on Monday. Plenty of blue sky out there, but still feeling cool, especially along eastern coast where you're exposed to that brisk northerly wind. So temperatures only around 7 to perhaps 15 or 16 in the south. Through Monday evening, that band of rain continues to slide its way southwards, so eventually many places are seeing clear skies as we go into Tuesday. Into Tuesday then, there will be a mix of some drier weather but also a few spots of rain, but more showery as we head Wednesday and into Thursday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
£76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash could be yours this summer. That's totally tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. And remember, because it's totally tax-free cash, you'll get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bowl. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
It needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. It's 4 o'clock and this show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, former Foreign Office Minister and author and MP Mark Fields, and political commentator Stella Chantakayadu. Right, coming up in my niggle.
Historic vote shifts. You can see seat after seat where the Labour vote share is down 35% and we're up 37%. It's a direct switching.
I'll be giving my take on the turquoise tidal wave that swept Britain at the local elections last week, and I'll be asking if there's anything that Labour can do to come back from this. You won't want to miss it. And throughout the show, Labour MP Catherine West will be discussing her. She has threatened to launch a leadership challenge following Labour's disastrous local election results. Now, tomorrow, Sir Keir will attempt to relaunch, reset, refresh, everything beginning with R, his premiership, and save his job. But he's not the only word he hasn't actually used is reform. But will it be enough? I'll be joined by our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. And in the interview, I'm looking forward to meeting him in person. Former Labour MP and Starmer critic Carl Turner will be discussing the latest leadership rumblings. He's currently an independent now. He had the Labour whip suspended. You won't want to miss it. Then later, in the Great British Debates, I'm asking, are reform right to pledge to put migrant camps in green councils? Critics claim that the pledge is a threat, but shouldn't those who vote for open borders be the ones who live with the consequences of mass migration? I've got that question as my poll question at gbnews.com. Please cast your vote. But before we get started, your latest news with Bethany Elsey.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 2 minutes past 4. Around 40 Labour MPs are calling on the Prime Minister to resign following the party's crushing local election results. The former Minister Josh Simon says Sir Keir Starmer has lost the country, while Union leader Paul Fleming is demanding that he sets out a timetable for his replacement. MP Catherine West has warned if no Cabinet Minister puts themselves forward to challenge the Prime Minister by tomorrow, she will trigger a leadership contest herself.
What I'd like to see is the Cabinet locking itself in a room tonight and coming up with a plan to respond to what was the worst election result for the Labour Party that I can remember, and I've been in public life since 2001. We lost very badly in Wales. The leader lost her seat. We lost very badly in Scotland. Several very good candidates didn't win. We lost very badly in London, including the local leaders of my own borough and that of the leader of the Labour Party. This is what I would describe as an electoral emergency.
Starmer is set to give a speech tomorrow in which he'll set out a fresh direction for the country, and the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, has told GB News he still has her support.
The last thing that we need at the minute is the Labour Party spending months talking amongst ourselves, potentially fighting amongst ourselves, at a point at which I don't take the message from the British people to be spend more time doing that. There is a real impatience for change.
Britain stuck on a cruise ship hit by a hantavirus outbreak is set to be repatriated almost a month after the first passenger died from the infection. The MV Hondius arrived in Tenerife this morning, where the first group of passengers disembarked the ship and boarded a plane. The flight carrying Spanish nationals to Madrid has now left the island. Authorities confirmed that no symptoms have been seen in evacuated passengers so far. British passengers will be taken to a hospital in northwest England to isolate. That's the same hospital used as the UK's initial COVID quarantine site. The UK Health Security Agency says the risk to the general public remains low. Meanwhile, army medics have parachuted into the remote island Tristan da Cunha in the South Atlantic to treat a British person with a suspected case of hantavirus there. Thousands of people are attending a rally against anti-Semitism in central London. A coalition of faith leaders, including more than 30 Jewish groups, are calling for urgent action, warning anti-Semitism is a problem for all of us to fix. The intervention comes after weeks of violent attacks against the Jewish community, including the stabbing of 2 men in Golders Green. The leaders of Labour, Reform UK, the Liberal Democrats and Conservative were all invited, but Green Party leader Zach Polanski was not. Counter-terrorism police have arrested 2 people aged 45 and 52 following an arson attack at a former synagogue in East London. The man and woman have been taken into police custody on suspicion of conspiracy to commit arson. CCTV footage shows the fire at the building in Nelson Street in Whitechapel was started deliberately, causing minor damage. The commander of counter-terrorism policing London, Helen Flanagan, says hateful attacks on the Jewish community will not be tolerated. And teachers in England are set to vote on strike action over pay later this year. It comes after teaching unions criticised the proposed 6.5% pay increase over the next 3 years. The National Education Union has threatened to hold a formal ballot in the autumn if the government doesn't take urgent action. You're up to date for now. I'll be back with more in half an hour.
Thank you, Bethany. It's fast approaching 6 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's #1 news channel. I'm Nana Akua. The turquoise tidal wave has swept through the country, sending a message loud and clear that the public are sick to their back teeth of this Labour government.
These are historic vote shifts. You can see seat after seat where the Labour vote share is down 35% and we're up 37%. It's a direct switching.
But Sir Keir Starmer says that he's not going anywhere. Instead, he's talking tough, believing that he can turn things around.
Look, it was really tough, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It's really important that we reflect and respond when the electorate send a message like that. It's right that we do that. I think we have to set out the path ahead, and that's what I intend to do in coming days, how we rebuild, how we convince people about hope for the future, and we haven't done enough of that.
He stopped using the word phase because, well, we've all lost count.
Summer's definitely over, and this morning we've got all the number 10 staff together and talked through what phase 2 of the government is going to look like and feel like. So we go into phase 2, 1st of September 2025, in good spirits, confident and with conviction about what we're doing.
Instead, using the word reset, which you can have an innumerable amount of and nobody's counting. Perfect, only it's not. So, in an audacious move, Sir Keir Starmer has employed Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman for his reset, believing that these dinosaurs from a bygone era hold the key. Baroness Harriet Harman has been appointed as his new advisor on violence against women and girls, the woman who said that trans women are women.
You can be born a man, but if you go through various processes, you can actually transition and your gender will be recognised as changed. You know, there are all different sorts of women, including there are biological women and trans women.
Yeah, but trans women aren't women, Harriet, are they? They're men. Back in the day, Harriet worked for the National Council for Civil Liberties as a legal officer from 1978 to 1982, which granted affiliate status to the Paedophile Information Exchange in 1975. Now, Harriet has since acknowledged regret with the links to the pro-paedophile activists, and in 2014 she said, "I very much regret that this vile organisation, PIE, ever existed and that it ever had anything to do with the NCCL, but it did not affect my work at the NCCL." She also went on to say they had been pushed to the margins before I actually went to the NCCL, and to allege that I was involved in collusion with paedophilia or apologising for paedophilia is quite wrong and is a smear. Even so, how can this be a good appointment? I'm feeling a Lord Mandelson lack of judgment moment. Keir has also hired former Chancellor and ex-Prime Minister Gordon Brown as his global finance envoy. The man who sold all the gold in the midst of a financial crisis and bailed out the banks using taxpayers' cash with no conditions attached, which led to such stringent lending rules that nobody could borrow anything anymore. Great choice, Keir. I mean, seriously, if Keir thinks that these two hold the answers, he's asking the wrong questions. In the meantime, the turquoise tidal wave has continued to sweep through the country, with Reform winning 29 seats in Bradford, of all places, clearly demonstrating that nobody's buying into attempts by Reform's opponents to link the party with the far right. Labour are eating themselves from the inside out, with over 30 of Keir's own MPs calling for him to go. It's so bad that Catherine West, a backbench Labour MP who no one's ever heard of, put herself forward to try and trigger a leadership contest, clearly worried that she's going to be out of a job in the not-too-distant future. What a mess. All of this unfolding in less than 2 years. An absolute joke. If Keir really wants to rescue his premiership and stop the Reform turquoise tidal wave, he could start by taking a leaf from their book and focus on stopping the invasion of our shores. Well, it has gone 10 minutes after 4 o'clock. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, Britain's #1 news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, are Reform right to pledge migrant camps in green areas? Some people have called the pledge a threat. But shouldn't those who vote for open borders live with their consequences? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, are Reform right to pledge migrant camps in green councils? Then in the next Great British Debate of this hour, I'm asking, could a new leader save Labour? Westminster is a buzz with leadership speculation, but would a new leader actually make a difference, or is this just a party, is the brand just way too toxic? So what do you think? I'm asking, could a new leader save Labour? And following on, Spanish authorities are evacuating passengers from the hantavirus-stricken cruise ship anchored near Tenerife in the Canary Islands. We'll be getting the latest updates from Dr. Mohamed Munir. That is all on the way. As ever, send me your thoughts, your comments. You could scan the QR code that you see on your screen, or why not visit gbnews.com/your say with your comments. Well, I'm joined now by political commentator Andy Williams. Andy, welcome to the programme. Good to see you, I must say. All right, Andy, what do you think? I'm on Keir Starmer. The turquoise tidal wave is about to come over, sink him, go over his head, and there's a dinghy probably over it as well. Is there any way? I mean, you know, is it over for him in your view?
Well, it's obviously over for him. It's over for him in every real sense. Whether it's over today or tomorrow or next week or in 6 months' time, you know, I don't think any of us are in the right place to make a prediction about exactly when the end will come, when the finality will happen. But we know it's over. We know that he doesn't have the support of the country. Obviously, we've seen that in some really important elections over the last few days. And he doesn't have the support of his party. I mean, the sheer number of people who are coming out and challenging him. Now, obviously, nobody, including Catherine West, believes that Catherine West is going to be the next Prime Minister. She's a stalking horse. And what she's trying to do is flush out more senior Labour MPs and cabinet ministers who might be willing to challenge the PM. So the only thing standing between between Keir Starmer and the end of his premiership is the inertia of his colleagues, really.
If Keir Starmer were to, go, OK, do you know what, we're going to change the ECHR or do something with the ECHR in a manner that would mean that we can send people back. If they were to follow some of the Reform UK policies to get rid of the ease with which people can stay in this country having come through illegally, if he was to get stuck into that right now and get everybody behind him, I think that he may have a slight chance of staying in longer and maybe have a chance of building some sort of credibility for the party?
I don't really think it's a case of following a Reform policy platform or following a Green policy platform. You know, the problem is that Labour is losing voters in every direction. It's not just about trying to out-Farage, which you can't do anyway, because whatever you think of him, he's very popular, he's very well known, he has charisma, all of those things. I personally think he'd be bad for the country, but, you know, people are voting for Reform in their droves. I don't think it's about saying, let's just do Reform 2.0. It's about actually firstly, setting out a clear vision in terms of what you want to achieve, and that has not happened so far with Labour. And secondly, it's about doing it properly. And then thirdly, communicating it well, and none of those things are happening. Now, two things that I just say to build on that. Number one, I was really perplexed yesterday when the response to these terrible results was, let's bring back Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman, as you were saying in your intro. You know, personally, I think Gordon Brown was an outstanding Chancellor and a much better Prime Minister than people give him credit for, and I think history will judge him very kindly. But the idea that people voted for reform in the Greens because there wasn't a special envoy for global finance, I mean, what on earth is Keir Starmer thinking? This is not why people haven't voted Labour. And again, Harriet Harman, I've got a lot of respect for her, but this is not the change that is required. So I think that's very odd. Secondly, you mentioned, and you were having your great British debate about reform and the migrant hotels. I think that announcement that said, if you don't vote for reform, we might end up putting some migrant hotels in your constituency. I thought that was a really shocking moment. I thought it was pretty disgraceful. And you used the word, you said some people have called it a threat. I think let's call it what it is, which is blackmail. That is an attempt to blackmail the British voters. And I thought it was really shocking and concerning.
Why? No, I don't think so. I think what they're saying is you get what you vote for. So the Greens are quite happy, and this is, you know, that's up to them if they want to initiate, kind of have an open border policy and make everything safe and legal routes for everybody, which is kind of what they were saying. I think that if that's what you want and people don't want that, then in the constituents that vote Green, then that's... No, I'm just saying, I don't think that's a threat. I think it is giving people what they want. If they're saying they want... But if they're saying that they want saving legal routes, open borders, then they can have the result of open borders. The people who don't want that can have the opposite. Well, what's the problem? I don't see the problem. I don't think it's a threat. It's a promise.
Because it's a fundamental shift in how our democracy works, and how whatever party, you know, wins the command of the British people, it's a fundamental shift in how sensible, serious governments are supposed to govern. You're supposed to govern in the interests of the country. And this is a classic example. It's actually the strongest, most egregious example I've seen of reform being divisive. They are saying, if you vote for us, it's going to be the land of milk and honey. But if you don't, oh dear, we're going to put migrant hotels in your constituency. We're supposed to be solving policy problems and uniting the British people. It's not about saying we're going to punish you if you vote Green. I think it's completely unacceptable. And that is not a party political point. I would say that about any party who would put forward this platform.
Are you saying that it's a punishment then to have migrant hotels and things like that in your council? Because that's what you're saying. You're actually saying that if you have migrant hotels and things like that in your constituency, that's a punishment. Is that what you're saying? Because I don't think it is.
I'm saying,
because that means you don't want them where you are.
I'm saying that's how Reform are positioning it.
No, they're not.
I don't have the tweet in front of me. No. That is explicitly how it's been positioned. No, otherwise, why would they have made such a threat?
It's not well, if you're not bothered, like if you're happy to have migrant hotels where you are, and many people on the left are saying refugees welcome and all this thing here, but when they're asked if they'll have them in their own home, they all say no, but yet they're happy to vote for a party that is actually saying that, then it's not a threat to give you what you want, is it? It's telling you that if you vote for this party and you get them in your constituency and you voted for them, then the things that they stand for will be where you are. And I don't think that's a problem at all. And the people who don't want that, it's just party policies that divide decisions as to who you vote for. You know, you vote for the Greens because you want the open borders. You vote for Reform UK because you don't. So if you want open borders, you can have the result of open borders. If you want to have a situation where you don't have open borders, then you don't have them. I don't see the problem in that.
I don't see it like that at all. And I think the reason that if I'm here and I'm defending having migrant hotels at all, it's not because I think it's a brilliant thing and that we should put them in every constituency. It's because we have a major problem, a really challenging, intractable problem. We've talked about this together many times, which is that we have tens of thousands of people coming into this country claiming asylum. In the short term, this is the best solution that we have. This is where, what I'm trying to say is this is where Reform, I don't think, are serious, because they're not looking at the world as it is. They're dealing with the world as they would like it to be and saying everything's black and white. It's really straightforward. If only we came in and they will find that governing is much harder than Nigel Farage makes out that it might be. And by the way, he's never had to govern. He just came in, was the leading cause and the leading proponent of Brexit, and left others to clear up the mess. And let's be clear, it has been a mess.
Well,
this is going to be a very different ballgame.
Yeah, but
this is going to be...
Well, it's been a mess because people fought against the democratic vote and mandate from the public, on all parties,
No, it's
actually.
been a mess
People who
because
didn't
it's a stupid economic act of self-harm. But let's not go down that road.
You might think that, but some people would argue
all of the data
that
suggests
Brexit...
that.
No,
it's not me, it's data.
No, it doesn't.
It's fact.
They haven't taken... Listen, you might say that, but the bottom line is that this country and the governing bodies of this country have not taken advantage of any of the Brexit benefits, even small little things that they could have improved. They didn't. So that's a real problem, which leaves us in a situation where Brexit hasn't really been initiated and we're now sort of sucking up back to the EU to try and have some half-hearted effort to get back in some way. And that's Keir Starmer doing that. The people didn't vote for that, and he's trying to do this dynamic alignment and everything else, and we're in, but we've got nothing to say, and nobody voted for that. Nobody voted for what has transpired. Right, Andy, final word to you anyway. Final word.
My point is, and this is where I actually agree with Nigel Farage and disagree with Keir Starmer, is I think Britain is fundamentally broken. I think there are an enormous set of problems that we need serious challenges to resolve, and we're not doing that.
Well, that's right. The Labour Party certainly aren't doing that. They're squabbling amongst themselves, and they're not doing what the British public are asking them to do, which is deal with the situation on our shores and fix the economy. Andy Williams, a pleasure. Thank you very much. That's political commentator Andy Williams coming up to 21 minutes after 4 o'clock. If you just tuned in, why now? It's 4 o'clock, remember that. It's 3, actually. Make sure you tune in at 3. I'm Nana Akua. Still to come, I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to be speaking to Independent MP Carl Turner to discuss the latest leadership rumblings in the Labour Party and why he has the Labour whip suspended. And next in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, are Reform UK right to put migrant camps in green councils? This is GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, 25 minutes after 4 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are Britain's #1 news channel, live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it is time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, are reform right to put migrant camps in green councils? With Labour and the Conservatives both battered in the local elections, Reform UK is grabbing the headlines again, this time over controversial plans to place migrant detention centres in green-controlled council areas. Supporters say that it is democratic. Critics call it political theatre. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, are reform right to put migrant camps in green councils? Well, joining me now, former Foreign Office Minister, MP and author Mark Field, and also political commentator Stella Chantakedu. Mark Field, I saw you sniggering there.
I was sniggering. Yes. It's a bit provocative, the idea. Well, it is provocative saying, listen, we'll have these migrant camps in green areas alone. But I think it does actually make a slightly important point, which is those camps should be there with public consent. Yeah. And very evidently, we've seen in Epping, we've seen in various other places over the last year or two, people up in arms about the idea of a migrant camp being put in their backyard. Yeah. I think the reality is, I mean, I'm not sure that there's any available space or real estate in the Hackneys or the Lewishams or the Waltham Forests, the places that the Greens won as their council. But I think there's also a valid point being made by Reform UK, which is to say, you know, if it is the policy of Zach Polanski of saying migrants are welcome, then there should be a price to be paid for that as well. Listen, I'm not sure it's practical politics.
Why not?
Well, because as I say, I'm not sure is there available space.
Well, you find the space. I mean, it's
someone
not
like Hackney.
Yeah, but when you're the council and you have the land, you've got the lay of the land, and you're the government, you can put forward, especially given the new sort of planning rules that Labour have currently put in place, just using these, you'd be able to commandeer land and build things. I don't think that would be a problem.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it is a provocative policy, but as I say, I think he makes that important point that these things have to come with the consent of the people, and the will of many Britons has been totally run roughshod over by the way in which those migrant camps have been imposed by central government, by the Home Office. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Let's see.
Stella?
Do you want to vote Green? You get it.
So first he was bribing voters to sign up for his I will pay your energy bill scheme so that he can get their personal data and advertise to them politically. And now he's blackmailing voters that if they don't vote for him, then their area is going to suffer. There used to be a time in British politics where we frowned upon whichever government was in charge, treating the councils that were related to their political party better than the councils that were run by their opposing parties. And now it seems that we are perfectly fine with this. And I think that this is just one more step towards the degradation of morality, moral standards in our political life.
In what way?
In the sense that they are blackmailing voters. They are saying to vote. They are telling voters, we will not treat you.
Making it very, very clear to voters at the outset, before they vote, what the consequence of their vote will be.
That the consequences of your vote, that we're blackmailing you. So they are telling voters.
You've been happy for one Labour mayor after another. Ken Livingstone, Sadiq Khan, doing all sorts of things, including cycle lanes, just running roughshod over the rights of many Londoners. So that's how democracy works.
That is how democracy works. But Sadiq Khan or whoever else did not say, I'm going to only put the cycle lanes in the wherever someone.
No, they're imposed on everybody, whether you were voted.
Because exactly, so everybody gets to benefit. Everybody gets to bear the burden,
yeah,
and everybody gets to have the benefits of every policy. That is how a policy should work. You do not get to say... can you imagine, for example, if somebody said, we are going to scrap benefits for... If the Labour Party said, we're going to scrap benefits for everyone, but for those who have voted for the Labour Party.
No, but they've already done in relation to their policy, their appalling policy in relation to VAT on school fees. Charitable entities, which education has been, it's not a loophole that they didn't pay VAT, but they've imposed that and now cause a lot of misery for huge numbers of children and actually there are
But it's VAT for all schools, not just the schools.
It's brought in virtually no
VAT for
money.
all schools, not just the schools that. It's not just for the schools who are in labour areas, for example, or in conservative or reform areas.
Listen, I'm afraid this is typical of the Labour mentality, which is, we'll put in our policies according to what we want, and everyone else will just have to suck it up. But the moment that an opposing party puts robust political policies forward, suddenly that's some sort of constitutional outrage.
One is a national policy that applies to everyone. The other one is saying explicitly, we are going to blackmail the voters of areas that vote for the Labour Party or for the Greens or for anybody else, and we will put the refugee.
Are you saying, does that mean that you wouldn't like a refugee camp in your area?
I think that nobody wants a refugee camp in their area.
So then you wouldn't vote Green, would you? Because Green are saying that we want lots of refugees welcome and everything else like that. That's a policy decision they've made. So in order to avoid that policy decision, you wouldn't vote for them. Well, these are policy decisions. They're not bribes.
I think I support what the Labour Party is doing, which is the asylum backlog has been down by half, which means that you can deport people who are here illegally faster. You can integrate people who are here legally into society, and that means that you don't have to just keep them in hotels or in anywhere else.
Would you support open borders?
No, absolutely
Exactly.
Not.
So then you wouldn't vote for the Green Party, would you, on that policy platform? That's not a bribe. That's a decision that you've made from a policy that you don't like.
Are you telling me that, for example, if a child is born in a conservative family where the family keeps on voting for Conservatives and for reform, and they are against scrapping the two-child benefit cap, and that family is poor, and they should not receive their extra benefits?
I'm sorry, but I can't
once the two-child policy.
I'm not doing it on that because that's not the point. Listen, I don't know. You lost me on the way anyway in that one. I'm asking you. You're saying it's a bribe that you're going to have to deal with the consequences of a policy from a party that you voted for. Now, if you vote for a party and they are happy with open borders, which you wouldn't vote for the Greens because of that, you've chosen the Labour because they'd rather not do that. But if you do vote for the Greens and you end up with lots of asylum hotels or whatever it is in your area, then it's your own fault.
If I was voting for reform and I was living in that area, I would be expecting my government to be putting refugees in the place that makes the most sense for the national interest. I would not be expecting them to act out of pettiness and vengeance towards voters. That is not what I would be expecting them to do. I would be expecting them to put them...
Stella, that's giving people what they voted for. If you vote for open borders, you end up in an area where you end up with migrant camps and things like that as a result of open borders, then you should be happy with that.
And you want as much consent as possible for what is obviously a controversial policy.
So in the City of London, for example, where real estate is extremely expensive and you would expect that, you wouldn't need any housing there, you would want that to be occupied by people who work nearby, for example.
There's a significant number of social housing. My own constituency, my erstwhile constituency in the City of London, Westmouth, had a lot of social housing. Actually, that was the bigger problem, that social housing was being taken by people at the same time as a lot of people who were not being paid a lot of money, working in the public or private sector, had to commute for hours to work every day, and that didn't make any sense. So there was a fundamental problem with our housing system. But as I say, the issue really on the migrant camps is one, I think, above all of public consent. And one of the reasons that people have been so up in arms is that vast numbers of these camps have been put in the wrong place for people who didn't want it.
Well, what do you think at home? gbnews.com/, you'll say, are they right? I personally think they are. You get what you vote for. If you want that, you want open borders, then you vote the Greens, then you get the migrant camps in your area, because that's what you asked for. The people who didn't vote for that, well, then they can have the opposite. It's fine, isn't it? But why are people so up in arms? Why are they calling it a bribe? Hardly. I think literally every party gives their policy platform, and you could see all of those as bribes. I'm Nana Akua. Still to come in the interview. I'm really looking forward to it, to speaking to no-nonsense MP Carl Turner. You won't want to miss that. I can't wait to hear what his take is on the position that Labour find themselves in for. But next, in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, could a new leader save Labour? Yes, those are the so-called options on the table. But first, your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. Around 40 Labour MPs are calling on Sir Keir Starmer to resign as Prime Minister following the party's crushing local election results. He's set to give a speech tomorrow in which he'll set out a fresh direction for the country. Passengers have begun evacuating from a hantavirus-hit cruise ship as Britons on board prepare to be flown home to isolate at the UK's initial COVID quarantine site. Thousands of people are attending a rally against anti-Semitism outside Downing Street following weeks of violent attacks on the Jewish community. And counter-terrorism police have arrested 2 people aged 45 and 52 following an arson attack at a former synagogue in East London on Tuesday. Those are your latest headlines. I'll have a full roundup for you at 5 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, it's feeling cool out there and wet and windy in the far northwest of Scotland, but gardeners beware. We're expecting a frost for some of us overnight. So looking at the bigger picture, we've got a ridge of high pressure extending over us. This area of low pressure will affect Scotland and run its way southwards as we go through this evening. So wet and windy conditions this evening across much of Scotland, heavy and persistent at times across Orkney and Shetland. To the south of that, that's why we hold on to the lengthiest clear skies. But in between, this front will slide its way southwards, bringing showery outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland into Wales and Northern England. So behind that, that's where we'll see clear skies across Scotland with a few wintry flurries and to the south as well. So a touch of frost in places as we start Monday morning. Temperatures generally holding up where we have the cloud cover. So a cold, chilly start to Monday morning, brisk winds running down that North Sea coast, but a bright start for much of Scotland. A bit more in the way of cloud across Northern Ireland and across much of Wales into the Midlands and East Anglia. That's where we have the cold front, so bring some shower outbreaks of rain to start Monday morning. Now that band of rain will continue to slide its way southward, so eventually ending up into parts of London and southern parts of England as we head into the afternoon. Behind that though, many places in the north will see a fine day on Monday. Plenty of blue sky out there, but still feeling cool, especially along eastern coast where you're exposed to that brisk northerly wind. So temperatures only around 7 to perhaps 15 or 16 in the south. Through Monday evening, that band of rain continues to slide its way southwards, so eventually many places are seeing clear skies as we go into Tuesday. Into Tuesday then, there will be a mix of some drier weather, but also a few spots of rain, but more showery as we head Wednesday and into Thursday.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
From football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
It's 37 minutes after 4 o'clock. If you just tuned in, where have you been? OK, well, next time, be there at 3. I'm Nana Akua. We are Britain's #1 news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. That is thanks to you. It's time now for the Great British Debate, and I'm asking, could a new leader save Labour? Now, Labour is facing serious questions after heavy losses in the local elections, with Reform and the Greens making major gains across the country. Pressure is mounting on Sir Keir Starmer from within his own party, but would changing the leader really solve their problems, or would it potentially make things even worse? So in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, could a new leader save Labour? Joining me now, former Foreign Office Minister and former MP and author Mark Field, and political commentator Stella Chantakedu. Stella, a new leader, is that their saviour?
Yes, absolutely, because I do think that a very big problem is Keir Starmer's personality and the way he has behaved as leader. He has absolutely frustrated his cabinet, his party, his country. A big problem is that a lot of people feel like he doesn't really know what he stands for. I mean, we do know ideally what he likes, but it's hard to see how he is not a big part of the problem.
Mark Field.
I think it's an utter fallacy to think that Labour's fortunes will improve if they get rid of Keir Starmer. I think, apart from anything else, the international financial markets, the bond markets, will be very worried because obviously if Starmer goes, Reeves will go as well, but they feel they've got some sort of stability there
But maybe they
on
might
the financial
celebrate.
side. Well, the worrying thing is I think the lesson that Labour will learn will be the wrong lesson from these local elections, which is how do we pander to the Green Party to get all those Green Party votes back. The Labour activist base will be desperate to think, right, now, let's out Polanski. So we'll talk about our sort of rent controls, we'll talk about more public spending, etc., which is not the right way forward. But I look at all the personalities that are there. I think they're all flawed. I think Wes Streeting is loved by the Westminster Village, loved by the Professional Politicians Guild, but I actually don't think he's that popular within the Labour Party. I'm not sure that although he might get enough votes to be a significant player within the parliamentary party, I'm not sure that there's much significant support for him amongst Labour members, or at least those who are still members of the Labour Party. And then you've got the other options. I mean, Andy Burnham, as I say, is not in Parliament at the moment. I mean, that's not an irreparable problem necessarily. Is Angela Rayner really the answer to all of our problems? I don't think so. So, I mean, in many ways, I think things could get a lot worse. I mean, just would destabilise the markets. And, as I said earlier on, the big worry is if this thing drags on for the rest of the year, there are important decisions that need to be made economically, domestically, internationally, and there's little evidence that's going to happen.
We can't be making all of our decisions based on whether the bond markets are going to agree with our decision or not. This is not how to do politics. This is not how a democracy should be ruled. There will be.
Fine. Where are the welfare cuts then? Because actually, that's why the bond markets matter. Because we're borrowing an enormous amount of money.
Mark, there are things I would be doing to appease the bond markets. For example, I would have scrapped the triple lock years ago, and this would have appeased the bond markets, because the biggest part of the welfare budget is by far what we're giving to state pensions. I would reform the welfare budget, but we cannot be making decisions like that. And I will tell you what else would destabilize the bond markets. If in 2 years' time we have a general election and we have an incredibly weak government, whether it is Labour majority, coalition, reform majority, whatever you think that it's going to be, and there are all sorts of opinions out there, that would totally destabilize them, that would totally freak out the bond markets. So I think it is much, much better to make sure that you have a different leader. The party is still going to be the same party in government, because whoever is going to be, it's likely going to be someone who was in the cabinet anyway. It's not going to be a massive change of direction. It will still be the same party. So I do think that there is a lot of talent. I think there is a lot of talent in the Labour Party. I think there is a lot of talent both in the front benches and in the back benches. And I think it is because of Keir Starmer, who has failed to engage all of these new talented MPs and to promote the right people. I mean, you see that over the weekend. He brought back Gordon Brown, who I have massive respect for Gordon Brown. I think he's a political heavyweight, a political
titan.
Dinosaur.
No, he's a dinosaur.
And Harriet Harman, how are you changing? How are you showing that you are transforming the government? Do you seriously not have anybody else from the party to bring fresh energy into your government?
Yeah. Well, ask Keir Starmer, and don't have to ask me that. But I mean, listen, they are heavyweight figures, but they are figures from the past, and I think you're right. We need to look with a very firm eye on the future, albeit to have advice behind the scenes from those people who've been through it all before. But I'm not convinced convinced that this is going to be a positive change for the country. And again, you know, all the self-indulgence about different factions of the Labour Party and the dislike of Keir Starmer. As I say, I think that the next leader will be just as disliked just as quickly. And if it's going to happen, let it happen quickly.
Listen, as part of that, Stella, you were talking about the pensions and everything else like that. Would you also look to scrap the gold-plated pensions before reducing state pensions? So, you know, all those in councils with all these gold-plated pensions who have worked in government for many years, what about those? I mean, they're ridiculously high.
I would look at what we need to do to reform to reform pensions more generally. I'm open. I have never seen anybody mention that specifically tackling those would be helping us with our relationship with the bond markets.
Are pensions part of the welfare budget?
Oh, yeah, they are. They are part of the welfare. But Stella, there were piffling changes that were proposed a year ago. That the government couldn't get through. I mean, it was led by the Treasury and by Department for Work
and why was that? And why was that?
They had a majority of
150. Why could they not go through? Because Keir Starmer, he very clearly tried to push through changes without discussing this with his PLP, without explaining why he was doing what he was doing, without making it clear, without having an actual long-term plan, because he didn't have a long-term plan. He just needed to find extra cash, and he just pulled the first lever that the civil servants suggested to him.
All right, come on, let's find out what our Great British Voice thinks, because the show's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome one of our Great British Voices, your opportunity to be on the show and tell us what you think about the topics we're discussing. Lee Webb, there he is. He's from Bedford. Good to see you, Lee. Nice to see you. So, Lee, what are your thoughts on this, in what we've been discussing?
I don't think it'll make any difference who leads the Labour Party now. It is in freefall, and I think the party's problems are more than the man or the woman that would potentially be in charge. We got to think that
they wouldn't have a woman, Lee. They haven't had a woman in there, or anyone of any colour. So
well, they don't even know what a woman is.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah.
But I think there's three factions of the Labour Party, pretty much like there was the Conservatives. You've got this centralist faction, which is kind of like your Wedge Street in, and then you've got your Andy Burnham, which is just kind of left. And then, of course, you've got your far left people, which is Angela Rayner and things like that. So I don't think it really matters who's in charge. They're going to have to put out fires amongst all the factions of the Labour Party. I think, really, the Labour Party and together with the Tories maybe ought to just split up. And I think Blue Labour maybe join Reform. That would be the same as the right-wing part of the Tories. Yeah. The left part of the Tories, which is what we call the Wets, maybe join up with the centrist Labour. I think there is this change in politics now.
Yeah. And very briefly, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Reform UK's plan on giving, if you vote a Green Council, you end up with the migrant hotels and things like that in your constituency, seeing as you've asked for that. Do you think Reform are wrong to do that?
No, I don't think they're wrong at all. I'm a bit of a NIMBY. We've got railway lines being built near where I live at the moment. I don't want any of that. I didn't vote for it, so I don't want it going around near my house. Yeah. It would be the same as a migrant hotel or a migrant camp. I didn't vote for it, so I don't want them around my area. Exactly. So if you vote for it, you want them, you want to welcome them, then by all means have them around your area.
Exactly. Lee Webb, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Lovely to see you again. That's Lee Webb. He's our Great British Voice. Right, if you're in searches and holidays, son, stay with us. But here's the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. An unsettled spell across central and southern Europe with some heavy showers and some thunderstorms. These will soon clear parts of Spain, moving into parts of France and also northern parts of Italy. Some real heavy downpours at times and some thunderstorms with some lightning and also some hail. But actually to the south of this rain band, across much of the Mediterranean, should be largely dry with some sunny spells. And that sunshine will continue into next week with temperatures widely in the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tamta, thank you not only for joining us, but for bringing examples of your amazing work, because I think the easiest way for you to describe what you do, because I read that you value things not for how they look, but for the messages they give and the stories that they tell. So tell me about what you do with silk and how you get those stories across.
Well, it's very important, first of all, to say hello.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be here again. And what's important for me to mention that I really challenge the status quo of luxury. I really believe that luxury is no longer of owning a product, but what emotional resonance it gives you. And that was the heart of Quintet. With our creations, you have no limits to what you can include in your artworks. Your dreams can truly come true here, so maybe I can show you one of the arts that we had ordered for Paul.
Who is Paul? What does Paul do? I mean, well, Paul clearly plays chess. He flies a lot. Can we see? I don't know if we can actually see this. If we can hold it up.
Yes, sure.
He's got a motorbike. He travels. He likes to drink. And as I say, he plays chess and he travels.
He likes Newcastle United as well. He likes, I think, Art Deco style period. That's why the fonts we chose. He likes red wine, and I think actually the motorbike is his dream. So your dreams can truly come true on these pieces. This is actually pocket square bandana, so it can be worn for men, it can be framed. What's beautiful about our creations that we can actually, many people frame them.
Yes.
And there is no monument in the world that we have drawn yet. Everything we have drawn, and every breed of the animal.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, let's talk hantavirus, because the first patients, or passengers, sorry, not patients, excuse me, are evacuated from the hantavirus-hit cruise have arrived in Madrid. Now, Britons on board the ship are preparing to fly home to isolate after the MV Hondius finally docked this morning. Meanwhile, British Army troops parachuted onto one of the world's most remote islands to help tackle a suspected case. Well, joining me now is lecturer in molecular virology at the Lancaster University, Dr. Mohamed Munir. Mohamed, thank you so much for joining me. Right, how worried should we be?
Well, hantaviruses are not a new viruses. Let me make it very clear. We know about these viruses for the last 50 years. A lot of information has already been gathered, and we know the efforts for making vaccine has begun a long time before. And more importantly, this virus is now very easy to transmit between person to person. And I think that has become very clear that, over the course of a week, around 150 people were there in the cruise ship, and only 8 are suspected positive for these cases. And majority of the people who are now being disembarked and repatriated are asymptomatic and are negative for the infection, clearly indicating that it is not as big problem as, for instance, we have been witnessing with the COVID-19. So rest assured, this is, of course, the repatriation and disembarkment is a pinnacle moment. And this is the Rubicon, actually, moment where we have to be extremely careful and make everything right in sort of bounding and cornering this outbreak. But if we are successful in properly handling this particular moment of repatriating people, probably that would be the end of this outbreak.
Well, you say that, but were they all tested for the virus before they are allowed to leave? Or were they simply asymptomatic and then told, OK, well, you're asymptomatic, so you can go home but isolate?
Not really, actually. Basically, what happened is that this is in complete contrast to COVID-19, where asymptomatic people can spread the infection. But when it comes to hantaviruses, people who are not showing clinical signs, they won't be able to spread the infection. And of course, it's a long period of incubation time, to up to 2 months. So people could be infected like, a month before and still could potentially in another month can start showing clinical sign. And that is the reason that is very critical that they are either in this space of self-isolation or under quarantine to make sure that they are still negative. The test that currently is being used to detect whether these are having virus or no, even if they're not showing clinical sign, is very sensitive test. It's a molecular test that is required to sort of test whether the person is positive or negative. So if the test comes up negative one time and after a couple of days it is tested again and still come negative, that is almost assurance that the person is negative.
So they didn't hold them there for a bit, did they? They just tested them once then. I don't know, Mohammed. I think people aren't... I think we need to be very careful with this one. But it's really good to get your take on it. That is Dr. Mohammed Munir. He is a lecturer in molecular virology at the Lancaster University. Thank you very much. Right, stay with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Plenty more coming up, including my interview with Carl Turner. You won't want to go anywhere for that one. But first, your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through tonight, we do have an area of low pressure. That's going to bring some outbreaks of rain. It's going to be turning chilly either side of that, though, with a touch of frost. So a ridge of high pressure is extending across us, but an area of low pressure across Scotland will sink its way southwards as we go through this evening. So outbreaks of rain already across Scotland, heading into Northern Ireland, Northern England and into Wales through the early hours. Behind that, turning much colder with a few wintry flurries across Scotland, especially over the mountaintops, and a touch of frost here. Even in the clearest skies across the south, that's where we could also see a touch of frost, so gardeners be aware. As we start Monday morning then, it is a bright but cold start across Scotland. We could see temperatures in sheltered spots reaching -3 or -4 degrees. Always a brisk wind coming down from the north across eastern areas. Across Northern Ireland, some sunny spells to start, but also some showery outbreaks of rain. That persisting across Wales, the Midlands and East Anglia as we start Monday morning. That band of rain will continue to sink its way southwards, so into the Midlands and eventually into southern parts of England, but it will tend to break up as we go through the day. Behind that, across much of Northern England, Northern Ireland and Scotland, plenty of sunny spells through Monday afternoon. But for all of us, it is still going to be feeling cool. Temperatures below average, and especially in the brisk northerly winds, it's going to be feeling even chillier than that. Another chilly start to the southeast on Tuesday morning. A bright start here, but cloud will filter in. We have another weather system just bringing some showery outbreaks of rain across the central swathe of the UK. Behind that, sunny spells and blustery showers through Tuesday, and that theme is continuing through Wednesday and Thursday on the heavy side, but still feeling cool. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to spend however you like. Put a new car on the drive or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You
That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, former Foreign Office Minister, former MP and author Mark Field, and also political commentator Stella Chantakedu. So in my niggle earlier,
historic vote shifts. You can see seat after seat where the Labour vote share is down 35% and we're up 37%. It's a direct switching.
well, I gave my thoughts on the turquoise tidal wave that swept Britain at the local elections, and I'll be asking if there's anything Labour can do to come back from it. If you missed it, you can catch it on GB News' YouTube channel, or why not catch it on social media. Now, Labour MP Catherine West has threatened to launch a leadership challenge following Labour's disastrous local election results, and tomorrow, Sir Keir Starmer will attempt to relaunch his premiership again and save his job. But will it be enough? I'll be joined by our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Then in the interview, joining me, MP and former Labour MP, Starmer critic Carl Turner, to discuss the latest leadership rumblings. Carl was suspended from the Labour Party and now is an independent. You won't want to miss his take on what happened during the week. Then in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, are Reform UK right to pledge to put migrant camps in green councils? Critics claim that the pledge is a threat, but shouldn't those who vote for open borders be the ones who live with the consequences of it? Well, I've got a poll question online at gbnews.com. I want to know what you think. Please cast your vote. But before we get started, your latest news with Bethany Elsey.
Nana, thank you. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 1 minute past 5. Around 40 Labour MPs are calling on the Prime Minister to resign following the party's crushing local election results. The former Minister Josh Simon says Sir Keir Starmer has lost the country, while Union leader Paul Fleming is demanding he sets out a timetable for his replacement. MP Catherine West has warned if no Cabinet Minister puts themselves forward to challenge the Prime Minister by tomorrow, she will trigger a leadership contest herself.
What I'd like to see is the Cabinet locking itself in a room tonight and coming up with a plan to respond to what was the worst election result for the Labour Party that I can remember, and I've been in public life since 2001. We lost very badly in Wales. The leader lost her seat. We lost very badly in Scotland. Several very good candidates didn't win. We lost very badly in London. including the local leaders of my own borough and that of the leader of the Labour Party. This is what I would describe as an electoral emergency.
Sir Keir Starmer is set to give a speech tomorrow in which he'll set out a fresh direction for the country. And the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, has told GB News he still has her support.
The last thing that we need at the minute is the Labour Party spending months talking amongst ourselves, potentially fighting amongst ourselves, at a point at which I don't take the message from the British people to be spend more time doing that. There is a real impatience for change.
Britain stuck on a cruise ship hit by a hantavirus outbreak is set to be repatriated almost a month after the first passenger died from the infection. The MV Hondius arrived in Tenerife this morning, where the first group of passengers disembarked the ship and boarded a plane. The flight carrying Spanish nationals to Madrid has now left the island. Authorities confirmed that no symptoms have been seen in evacuated passengers so far. British passengers will be taken to a hospital in northwest England to isolate, the same hospital used as the UK's initial COVID quarantine site. The UK Health Security Agency says the risk to the general public remains low. Meanwhile, army medics have parachuted into the remote island Tristan da Cunha in the South Atlantic to treat a British person with a suspected case of hantavirus there. Thousands of people are attending a rally against anti-Semitism in central London. A coalition of faith leaders, including more than 30 Jewish groups, are calling for urgent action, warning anti-Semitism is a problem for all of us to fix. The intervention comes after weeks of violent attacks against the Jewish community, including the stabbing of 2 men in Golders Green. The leaders of Labour, Reform UK, Lib Dems and Conservative were all invited, but Green Party leader Zach Polanski was not. Counter-terrorism police have arrested 2 people, aged 45 and 52, following an arson attack at a former synagogue in East London. The man and woman have been taken into police custody on suspicion of conspiracy to commit arson. CCTV footage shows the fire at the building in Nelson Street in Whitechapel was started deliberately, causing minor damage. Commander Helen Flanagan says hateful attacks on Jewish communities will not be tolerated. And Iran says it's replied to a US peace proposal a week after it was submitted. It's understood the plans consist of a 14-point memorandum to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and set a framework for further talks on Iran's nuclear program. It comes as the month-long ceasefire between the two sides shows signs of fraying as drone strikes have been reported around the region. The UAE and Kuwait have reported drone incursions in their airspace today, with both countries shooting them down and confirming they were Iranian, while a drone attack on a ship off Qatar's coast started a small fire. And some breaking news just in for you. The former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner has released a statement saying Sir Keir Starmer must meet the moment and allow Andy Burnham back into Parliament. Angela Rayner has just made her first public comments since the devastating local elections and devolved election results for the Labour Party. In her statement, she went on to say, "What we are doing isn't working and it needs to change. This must be our last chance." She's called on the party to put the common interest ahead of fictionalism and criticised the Prime Minister's decision to prevent the Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham from standing for Parliament in a by-election in February. This is bigger than personalities, but it is time to acknowledge that blocking Andy Burnham was a mistake. Those are the latest comments from the former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner.
Yes, well, this is GB News coming up to 7 minutes after 5 o'clock. How exciting. We'll be discussing all of it. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, Westminster is reaching boiling point with leadership speculation following Labour's disastrous showing at the local elections as the Labour leader, his biggest union donor, calls for the Prime Minister to quit. I'll be joined by our Chief Political Correspondent, Catherine Forster, with more. Then in the interview, I'm very excited to meet and speak to independent MP Carl Turner, who had the Labour whip suspended earlier this year. He'll be joining me in a few moments, and again, I can't wait to talk to him. Then in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should we take the Greens seriously? I mean, it was a brilliant night for the Greens at the local elections, winning over 300 new council seats and upseating Labour in Hackney. But can you really take their policies seriously? So in the Great British Debate, I'll be asking just that. All of that is on the way. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. So former Deputy Leader Angela Rayner has said that Sir Keir Starmer must allow Andy Burnham back into Parliament. It comes after the Labour MP, Catherine West, threatened to trigger a leadership contest as early as Monday if no senior ministers come forward to challenge the Prime Minister.
What I'd like to see is the Cabinet locking itself in a room tonight and coming up with a plan to respond to what was the worst election result for the Labour Party that I can remember, and I've been in public life since 2001. We lost very badly in Wales. The leader lost her seat. We lost very badly in Scotland. Several very good candidates didn't win. We lost very badly in London, including the local leaders of my own borough and that of the leader of the Labour Party. This is what I would describe as an electoral emergency.
So in the last few moments, we've heard from Angela Rayner, who has made some big comments. We'll be going through there. But Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson told GB News she disagrees with those calling for Sir Keir Starmer to step down.
Catherine is a good colleague and we get on very well, but I think she's just wrong on this point. I don't take the message from the elections from voters as being spend more time talking amongst yourselves as a Labour Party and spend months in a leadership contest with all the chaos that would ensue. That wasn't the message I heard from voters.
It would be nice to hear the message that you did hear, not the message that you didn't hear. But can Keir Starmer survive the biggest threat to his leadership? Angela Rayner, in some breaking news, has spoken for the first time. Joining me now is GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. So, Catherine, tell me more about this breaking news.
Yes, a big moment, this. Angela Rayner, former Deputy Prime Minister, a big beast in the Labour Party. We've been waiting for her to say something, and she has just said it. She's posted a pretty long post on X. I'll just bring you the highlights. She said, what we are doing isn't working and it needs to change. This may be our last chance. She goes on to say the Labour Party must now live up to our name. We must be the party of working people. She goes on to warn that they're risking becoming the party of the well-off but not working people. She says that the cost of living for everybody is the #1 issue, that people feel hopeless. And she says things could be so much better than this. But she also goes on to say very specifically that it was a mistake to block Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, for standing. She says that to deliver the change that is needed, they need to bring our best players to Parliament. So she seems to get the scale of the challenge. She's very clear what we're doing isn't working. This could be our last chance for change. It sounds like a call to me to bring Andy Burnham back. The Prime Minister, I think, is now absolutely in the fight of his life.
Well, I think the right diagnosis, but sadly the wrong prescription, I'd say, because if she thinks that going further to the left, which is what she's saying is the answer, then I think she's missed the point as well. Now, the Labour Party have always stood for the working people, but the problem is the policies that they're putting forward do not help the working people. So, for example, VAT on private schools, the majority of people paying for private schools are actually middle class. They're not the upper classes. The upper classes won't be affected by that. The pubs or the business rates, well, of course, that affected the middle to lower earners because the lower earners work in pubs. And, of course, raising the minimum wage means that lower earners can't get jobs. Everything that they've done so far has affected the very base they're meant to help. And also, on that note of that in private schools, well, a lot of teachers have become unemployed as the schools shut. It's just absolute backward thinking.
Well, I really don't think that the Labour Party cares at all about the people that can afford to send their kids to private school, but they are supposed to be the party of the working class. That is who they were founded to represent. And what Angela Rayner is saying here is reflective of something that Josh Simon said earlier about, where have I got the quote here? He said, Josh Simons was a big backer of the Prime Minister, by the way. People whisper that high turnout in working class estates is bad for Labour. When the party fears the people it was created to represent, it is marching towards extinction. We heard similar from Eleanor Morgan, who was the Welsh First Minister, and from Colwyn Jones, who had been the Welsh First Minister, saying that this is supposed to be the party for the working class. At the moment, the working class seems to feel that Labour have abandoned them, and they are going in very large numbers to reform.
Well, also no mention of the boats, which I think does irritate a lot of working class people who work very, very hard and pay high tax, a lot of tax out of their income. Then they see other people coming here who've not put anything into this country, getting free accommodation, free food, free dental, free medical, everything. And I would suggest that, well, that's one of the main irritants for people who are working class.
People want fairness, don't they?
Absolutely.
And let's face it, we've had, since the financial crisis, we've had a pretty stagnant economy. There isn't the money there. People feel they're paying more tax than ever. Public services are not what they should be. We feel we're putting more in than ever, and we're not getting what we should get out. So this disaffection, I think, goes back a long way, and it's part of the reason why we have cycled through multiple prime ministers. It's not unique to the Labour Party. There's you know, the incumbent governments across the developed world in trouble, but Angela Rayner is putting forward a vision here. Of course, not clear where the money comes from, but she's saying the Prime Minister must now meet the moment and set out the change our country needs. So she is not supporting the Prime Minister, nor is she calling for him to go. But I think the fact that she said it was a mistake to block Andy Burnham, and that basically saying we need him back, is very significant indeed.
Well, I think it is indeed, and also it suggests that actually Keir Starmer was just thinking about himself, his own ego. A little while ago, he said country before party, but what he meant was Keir Starmer before country and before party, really.
Yeah, I was actually just looking back at the speech. I was there in the room when the general election was called, and quite a short speech that the Prime Minister gave saying why people should vote Labour. And the first reason was we will stop the chaos. They said stability. One of the other things in that speech was secure our borders. And he said country first, party second. At the moment, they seem to spend a lot of time worrying about how to manage the various factions within the Labour Party.
All right, Catherine Foster, thank you for bringing us that breaking news. Well, we're also joined now by political correspondent Anna Gross. Anna, so here we are again, Labour Party in calamity and crisis. Once again, another moment where people want Keir Starmer to go. I mean, there have been so many that I've actually lost count. And now Angela Rayner has spoken.
That's right. But while you're absolutely right that there have been 30 Labour MPs that have come out and said, we want you to set out at least a timeline for handing back the reins of power and bringing in someone else, there hasn't been perhaps the kind of groundswell of backing from Labour MPs that some thought there might be, or indeed any of the big potential touted rivals, Angela Rayner or Wes Streeting, coming out and saying, look, we're going now. In fact, you know, what we're hearing is that Wes Streeting has given his assurances to Number 10 that he's not planning to go first. And it does seem as though Angela Rayner's own desire to try and take that job has dimmed somewhat. So you're absolutely right. There is a kind of feeling amongst many in the Labour Party that they'd like change, and we at least know of 30 that have gone public. And of course, Catherine West, the former Foreign Office Minister, who's come out very publicly and trying to rally people behind her. But once again, it doesn't look like there's that large number of MPs to create the stampede necessary to actually affect the change now.
I don't know. I think perhaps Angela Rayner now stepping out and making a comment may invite others. She's only just said her piece. And I think a lot of people who were maybe more cautious or more dubious of speaking now are possibly ready to say something, because it is clear something needs to happen with the Labour Party, because they can't carry on like this, can they, really?
You're right that something that may happen, but I think one of the most surprising aspects of this is, you rightly point out, there's been these leadership rivalry rumours that have been circulating for months and months and months. And one of the surprising elements is that it's not actually led to a rebellion yet. And they keep being sort of like this, the moment of maximum peril is now, then that was Gorton and Denton, and now it's the May elections, and now people are starting to talk in Westminster around Friday last week. They were starting to talk about conference season in September might be the moment of maximum peril. So there does feel like there's a deferring that keeps happening. You're right, that might change. It might be that there's a flood that comes through now. But I think the signal that Angela Rayner was sending was actually, it's not necessarily going to be me that goes. I'm throwing my weight behind Andy Burnham. And as we know, Andy Burnham can't run to take over the leadership at the moment. That will be a protracted process if it is even ever possible, if he's ever allowed to stand as a Labour MP. But the sense that we're getting, at least, is that MPs are coalescing much more around Andy Burnham as an alternative, and that does have a longer time frame. And what they're hoping is that Starmer will at some point take the decision to set out in a more orderly way how he might be willing to sort of hand the reins of power over.
Well, I suspect the longer they leave it, the less likelihood there will be of a safe seat for Andy Burnham, because the Labour Party and Keir Starmer, led by Keir Starmer, are deeply unpopular. Anna Gross, thank you very much. She's a political correspondent. Really good to talk to you. Thank you. Right, let's talk HMS Dragon, or Dragon as it's known as. It's heading to the Middle East ahead of potential mission to protect the Strait of Hormuz, and the Royal Navy warship will be pre-positioned in the region, ready to join the UK and French-led coalition. It comes as a fragile ceasefire between Iran and the US continues to hold. So with an update, I'm joined by GB News' digital reporter Marcus Donaldson. Marcus, what more can you tell us about this?
Well, actually, quite a scary threat issued by the Islamic Republic of Iran. So the Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister, Kazem Garibedi, has taken to X a rather lengthy post in which he's promised decisive and immediate response to British and French warships in the region. What he said is the presence of French and British warships or any other country potentially accompanying the illegal and internationally unlawful actions of the United States in the Strait of Hormuz will be met with a decisive and immediate response from the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Therefore, they are strongly advised not to complicate the situation further. He goes on to say, any deployment under the pretext of protecting shipping is nothing but an escalation of the crisis, the militarisation of the vital waterway, and an attempt to cover up the true root of the region's insecurity, which he says only the Islamic Republic can restore security, and as it says, will not allow any other countries to interfere.
Well, I mean, I don't know whether I believe them, but HMS Dragon, does it have any capabilities to do anything if it is attacked? I hear it is one of the a really incredible warship that can do a lot, but it seems to be beleaguered by problems.
Well, yes, it has. Obviously, it had a water issue when it was stationed in Cyprus, but it does have very advanced capabilities. So it's got the Sea Viper system to shoot down rockets, drones, ballistic missiles, as we discussed last week. However, the HMS Dragon is not mentioned specifically in the message. However, it does mention the Charles de Gaulle, the French aircraft carrier, and British warships.
Well, we've only got one, haven't we, really?
Well,
which is pretty tragic, really.
But, yes, so quite a foreboding threat, and one we should probably think about, yeah.
All right, Marcus Donaldson, thank you very much. I just want to see that clip again of John Healey answering the question as to how many chips we have. I love that. That's so funny, isn't it? Sadly, he's in charge. He's the Defence Secretary. Couldn't make it up. 21 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. Still to come in the Great British Debate. I am asking, should we take the Greens seriously? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, Mark Field, and also Stella Chantakadu. And don't forget that interview with Carl Turner. We'll be with you shortly after this.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Just come out to 25 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you just tuned in, welcome. I'm going to be nice now because we're actually the #1 news channel and it's all down to you, so thank you. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. Don't forget you can download the GB News app completely for free. Check out all the programmes on the channel at your leisure. You can even stream the shows live on YouTube. It's time now for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should we take the Greens seriously? As Britain's political map shifts after the local elections, the Green Party is celebrating major gains across the country, with voters increasingly turning away from Labour and the Conservatives. However, as discussed earlier, Reform have threatened to house migrants in Green voting areas, and we can guess how that will be received.
I just noticed your placard saying refugees welcome here. Yes. I'm just wondering if you'd like to go down on a list saying you're willing to take the refugees into your home.
Well, if I had any space, I would.
If you had any space.
It wouldn't be a nice place to bring them because it's a bit overcrowded.
Right.
Yes.
Rental. Yeah. You can't do it. Yeah. Someone else's job. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I can't.
You can't take one.
I don't have a.
You don't have the space.
Yes, of course, I don't have the space, but oh yeah, everyone's welcome. So the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should we take the Greens seriously? Well, joining me now, former Foreign Office Minister and author Mark Field, and also political commentator Stella Chantakadu. All right, Mark Field, the Green Party, they've come up with some quite extreme policies, one of which I think they're expecting us to disarm nuclearly, which I think is madness. Should we be taking them seriously? They got over 300 seats.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. They should be definitely taken seriously. And I think that fragmentation of politics that you referred to earlier on, the idea of that duopoly between the Conservatives and Labour really breaking down, means that the Greens, in one way, are a slight mirror image on the left of what Reform UK are on the right, a populist party. But they've got some... I think more scrutiny needs to be paid to their policies, and I think we will see a little bit more, I suspect, in the months ahead, if there is to be a leadership battle. As we've heard now, Angela Rayner has gone very public to say that Andy Burnham should be back into the fray, so it looks as though we're heading towards endgame for Keir Starmer's premiership. It may take some months, but I think a lot of the debate that will take place within the Labour Party will be about how do we win back all those Green voters.
Yeah, but what about Zach Polanski? He retweeted that tweet that was, which was making negative comments about the way the police treated somebody who just stabbed 2 people.
Sure.
Now, Zach Polanski said that the person was in handcuffs and everything. They weren't in handcuffs. They had a knife in their hand and they were being kicked to try and release the knife.
Yeah.
Now, he got a lot of backlash there. Then there was the thing many years ago, when he wasn't a politician, where he made out that he could make boobs bigger and then said something else that would suggest that he was serious 6 months later. He's not really coming up as a credible candidate, really.
Well, listen, I think he's slightly incontinent when it comes to social media, but then I think a lot of politicians these days are. So, in fairness, on that particular, it was actually, I think, on Blue Sky, and I think he just liked it rather than saying too much more, and he likes thousands of other tweets and messages that come through almost on a daily basis. The bigger thing is let's have a look at scrutiny of his policy. I mean, obviously, I've been particularly concerned about the sectarianism that he's bringing into politics, and he's been turning a blind eye to a lot of anti-Semitism from many of his supporters. We saw that in the by-election that took place in Denton and Gorton, and one fears that it played a part at some of the local elections that took place in London. I think, Kemi Badenoch was absolutely right to push back on this and sort of say that, without pushing back on this sort of anti-Semitism, we were silent in the way that many were in Germany in the 1930s, and we all know what happened thereafter.
All right, Stella.
I think that any party that has increasing popularity and that's being voted in the way that the Greens are, or Reform, to be honest with you, should be taken seriously. And in the same way that I don't think that it's wise for any politician to just dismiss Reform, I don't think it is wise to dismiss the Greens. And you can say about whatever you want about Zach Polanski, you can say about his career past or about certain comments he makes, but the reality is that the Green Party represents something for people, and the reason why someone like Hannah Spencer was able to get elected in the Gorton by-election is because there is a frustration that seems to unite a lot of people, and politicians need to take that seriously, need to understand what is behind it and why these people, why these voters no longer feel that they can be represented but by the 2 mainstream political parties.
Well, what about their policy to get rid of a nuclear deterrent? I mean, PwC just sent a message in. That doesn't make any sense and doesn't sound like a party that's serious. I mean, if you got rid of your nuclear deterrent, you could end up like Ukraine.
Sure,
we
yes.
don't even have any warships, so we'll actually have absolutely nothing.
Sure, they do have some radical policies, very radical, very extreme policies, and they also have a problem, in my opinion, where they are a coalition of different interest groups which do not necessarily mesh together on everything. But that does not mean that they cannot make significant progress.
But that's a big policy. I mean, there are little policies, and you go, oh, yeah. But to say that you're going to get rid of the nuclear deterrent when you must know that we don't have many warships, and as we said earlier, John Healey doesn't actually know how many, although Vladimir Putin definitely does. Mm-hmm. We don't have many rockets, we don't have anything really. If you're saying you're getting rid of the nuclear deterrent under these circumstances, that's madness.
You say that we don't have all that, but for the average person in their day-to-day life, this is not something that's visible to them.
Well, that's taking the electorate for fools. I don't think so. I think most people understand if you don't have anything to protect yourself in terms of nuclear deterrent or no weapons, that the average person would be very concerned.
No, I vividly remember one of the earliest elections. I was still at an undergraduate university in 1987, and Labour essentially lost a lot of credibility in the last week or so of the campaign on this very issue about nuclear deterrence. Whether you were going to be a unilateralist or a multilateral supporter of getting rid of nuclear weapons. So it is important, and I think, again, it goes back to this fragmentation of politics, that actually the reality is if the Greens could get to 20-25% of the vote quite easily with a policy that, as we say, doesn't make sense for the defence of the country. And, I'm afraid our defence is, we've got to look at it, obviously in an era of drone warfare, but also an era where we're not going to have boots on the ground. We therefore do need to keep our nuclear deterrent at our peril if we get rid of it.
And also, the whole idea, Reform UK was saying about the migrant hotels. I just got to read this message from Angie.
All right.
If you missed earlier, and most people listening and watching will know that Reform UK said, listen, if you vote for open borders, you can have all the migrant hotels and things and deal with the consequences of that in your own constituencies if they come into power, which I personally think is fair, but so does Angie. Angie G sent me a message. She says, Nana, it is the most sensible idea. In fact, to put hotels in any other area is cruel cruel to the migrants, putting them in places where people don't want them. It's much safer to put them in places where people do want them. It's not a threat, blackmail or anything else. It's sensible. And on that bombshell, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ange. Absolutely right. 32 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Next, my interview. I'll be speaking with Independent MP Carl Turner to discuss the Labour leadership. But first, your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Hello, the headlines from the GB Newsroom. The former Deputy Labour leader Angela Rayner says Sir Keir Starmer must meet the moment and set out the change our country needs. Meanwhile, around 40 Labour MPs are calling on Sir Keir Starmer to resign as Prime Minister following the party's crushing local election results. Passengers have begun evacuating from a hantavirus-hit cruise ship as Britons on board prepare to be flown home to isolate at the UK's initial COVID quarantine site. Thousands of people are attending a rally against anti-Semitism outside Downing Street following weeks of violent attacks on the Jewish community. And counter-terrorism police have arrested 2 people aged 45 and 52 following an arson attack at a former synagogue in East London on Tuesday. Those are your latest headlines. I'll have a full roundup for you at 6 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, it's feeling cool out there and wet and windy in the far northwest of Scotland, but gardeners beware. We're expecting a frost for some of us overnight. So looking at the bigger picture, we've got a ridge of high pressure extending over us. This area of low pressure will affect Scotland and run its way southwards as we go through this evening. So wet and windy conditions this evening across much of Scotland, heavy and persistent at times across Orkney and Shetland. To the south of that, that's why we hold on to the lengthiest clear skies. But in between, this front will slide its way southwards, bringing showery outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland into Wales and Northern England. So behind that, that's where we'll see clear skies across Scotland with a few wintry flurries and to the south as well. So a touch of frost in places as we start Monday morning. Temperatures generally holding up where we have the cloud cover. So a cold, chilly start to Monday morning, brisk winds running down that North Sea coast, but a bright start for much of Scotland. A bit more in the way of cloud across Northern Ireland and across much of Wales into the Midlands and East Anglia. That's where we have the cold front, so bring some shower outbreaks of rain to start Monday morning. Now that band of rain will continue to slide its way southward, so eventually ending up into parts of London and southern parts of England as we head into the afternoon. Behind that though, many places in the north will see a fine day on Monday. Plenty of blue sky out there, but still feeling cool, especially along eastern coast where you're exposed to that brisk northerly wind. So temperatures only around 7 to perhaps 15 or 16 in the south. Through Monday evening, that band of rain continues to slide its way southwards, so eventually many places are seeing clear skies as we go into Tuesday. Into Tuesday then there will be a mix of some drier weather but also a few spots of rain, but more showery as we head Wednesday and into Thursday.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hello, good afternoon. 37 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on Digital Rayner. Now, the Digital Rayner, that's because I was thinking of Angela Rayner, because Deputy Prime Minister Labour leader Angela Rayner has warned that Sir Keir Starmer must allow Andy Burnham back into Parliament. That is as the party faces its last chance following a disastrous set of election results. Questions are now growing over whether Labour is losing its touch with its traditional heartlands. Now, Carl Turner has been a vocal critic of Labour's direction in recent months after losing the party whip earlier this year. And I'm pleased to say that he joins me now. Carl Turner, he's a former Labour frontbencher and Hull East MP. Carl, thank you very much for joining me. I was really looking forward to speaking to you because I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I mean, you're probably glad that you're out of the Labour Party, given how they are being trounced in these local elections.
Well, good afternoon to you. Well, yes, things are not very clever in the Labour Party at the moment. Things seem to be going fairly badly for the Prime Minister, but I have to tell you, most of it's self-induced. I've been warning him for many months. The direction of the party has been going in the wrong direction, in my view. It started badly with winter fuel and then moved on to even worse scenarios. And look, it's been doom and gloom. There's not been a positive message. And really, we ought to have been offering positive policy and messaging to the electorate. That's ended in terrible election results in the locals, Scotland and Wales. And I'm afraid the Prime Minister has to take culpability. It's on him.
Well, he seems to think that he can talk about a reset and then bring in the dinosaurs from a bygone era, Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman. I don't mean to be unfair to them, but really?
Well, I hope that he can reset, but I suspect the chance of that is diminishing by the very minute, actually. Now, Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman have always got a role to play in the party. They are very big figures. They're very well regarded in the PLP and across the membership of the party. But it smacked of not understanding the seriousness of the position when he was bringing Harriet and Gordon into Downing Street. And I thought it was, frankly, if I'm being honest with you, a little bit crass that he was doing that when good-working, hard-working councillors, community activists, campaigners and members of staff have been pounding the streets for months.
Well, it also feels like he's missed what the problem actually is. The problem, in my view, is actually him and the policies that he has been at the forefront of, which don't really seem to match what the base of Labour is all about. So, for example, we talked about the winter fuel, but the issue with the farmers, what was that about? Not mentioned at all. In fact, he said he would do the very opposite. Just other little things that he's done that just don't make any sense at all, like pursuing things like the Chagos, when actually loads of people are crying out for him to address the border. Why has he brought in Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman? It just feels like, Prime Minister, you're missing the point. People are crying out for somebody to take control of the borders as well.
Well, look, I think Harriet and Gordon Brown have always got a role to play in the party, and that experience is going to assist to some respect. But I don't think we should be going back to the past. I think we should be looking forward. He's got lots of new MPs. If he wants advice, turn to his new MPs. They've been elected. They have an opinion. They knock on doors. They know what's being said on the doorstep. The problem with Keir is, and look, this pains me because he was a friend of mine. I'm not sure he's particularly friendly towards me now, but I do tend to tell him what I think. And what I think is he's got it wrong on a huge array of policy areas, and indeed the strategy, the communication, the comms has been bad as well.
Now, Angela Rayner has now made her position clear, and she's called for the party to put the common interest ahead of factionalism, and she criticised the Prime Minister. This is just his decision to prevent Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham from standing for the parliamentary party in that by-election in February. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I had a conversation with Keir Starmer at the time. I told him not to go anywhere near the NEC meeting. I said, keep away from it. If you've made your position clear with the NEC, they're going to do what you ask them to do. I think it's a mistake to block Burnham, the most popular figure in not just the Labour Party, but in politics per se. More popular than Boris Johnson ever was, according to the polling. More popular than Nigel Farage is, according to the polling. Why on earth are you blocking the man who is popular from standing in a by-election which we're unlikely to win unless Burnham is the candidate? The answer was he'd made a decision. He was going to block Burnham. I tried and begged and pleaded with him not to do the daftest thing that I thought he was ever going to do. I mean, honestly, he just doesn't seem to want to listen. Now we've got Angela Rayner coming out with a statement saying she's almost, rowing back a bit, supporting Andy Burnham back into Parliament. The problem with that, of course, is this. Which seat is he going to have? Is it going to be a seat we can win? If you look at what was happening in the local elections a few days ago, I'm not sure there's any safe seat for the Labour Party right now. So this idea that the soft left and left of the Parliamentary Labour Party have got, that somehow Burnham's going to come in and magic up a seat and then be elected with a resounding majority, so much so that he can be the leader of the Labour Party, I just don't think it's likely. I think the reality is this. Angela Rayner would allow Andy Burnham in if Angela Rayner was the leader of the Labour Party. But I know Angie, I've spoken to her today. Angie doesn't want to be the leader of the Labour Party. She wants the Prime Minister to succeed. But I tell you this much, if West Streeting stands, Angela Rayner stands. That's the reality.
And the thing is, the longer they leave it to do something, then it is less likely that there, as you say, will be any safe seat for Andy Burnham at all. And the longer they keep Keir in place, it looks like the party will sink further, which is a bit of a dilemma for them, seeing as, Keir stood on a plinth of telling us that he was going to get rid of the chaos. He also said, country before party. What do you think it was going through his mind then, blocking Andy Burnham? Because it sounds like it was his ego.
I think what was going through his mind is that he didn't want a challenger for his premiership. That's the only thing that was going through his mind, and I think he persuaded the National Executive. We understand that Ellie Reeves, who was part of their NEC meeting, didn't really want to block Andy Burnham and had to have a row with his sister Rachel Reeves if the press reports are true. I don't know. I've not spoken to Ellie and I've not spoken to Rachel about it. But look, the idea of blocking Burnham was a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
It was just obvious. What he should have done with Burnham is bring him in. Andy Burnham's apparently the king of the North. Make him the minister for the North.
Yeah.
He could have put Andy Burnham in charge of the local elections. When it went badly, as we now know it did go badly, he could have blamed Andy Burnham if he wanted to stop Burnham's prospects of taking him out as the PM. Yeah. He's got no politics about him. That's the problem with Keir Starmer. Look, I talk about it like this. The Labour Party is the nearest thing I've got to a religion. But if the Labour Party was the Church of England, Keir Starmer would be its chief executive. He wouldn't be the Archbishop because he's not and he never will be our spiritual leader. He doesn't feel it like Gordon Brown or Harriet Harman for that matter, or Neil Kinnock or a array of other leaders who have been leaders of the party and taken us into government. Even Tony Blair, to an extent, felt it.
And finally, what are your thoughts on the reform tidal wave that is sweeping the country?
I mean, it's bound to be happening, isn't it? In my constituents, 74% of the electorate voted Leave. I spent most of my time telling them it was a daft idea. What do you expect them to think? So, of course, he's got the easy answers, hasn't he? What's he going to do with the small boats? He's going to turn them around in the English Channel. Well, the reality is people are going to be very let down if they elect a Farage reform government, because there's no turning boats round in the English Channel and sending them back to France. That's for the birds. You're effectively saying we're going to invade France. What a load of nonsense. But Farage has got the advantage of being able to come out with the easy answers. And the tragedy is the electorate want instant happiness. When a politician says something, they expect them to deliver. You can order something on Amazon and get it the very next morning. That's the speed of society now, and they expect politics to be delivered in the same speed and efficiency. It don't work like that. The Tories used to call it speak about the blob, the civil service. You get into government, things turn, the wheels turn very slowly. And the reality is government's difficult. But what you can do is expect politicians who say that they're going to be holier than thou, like Keir Starmer did. We're not going to have the chaos and the incompetence of Boris Johnson. We're going to be different. You can expect them to be different. So when it comes to buying a pair of spectacles, get your wallet out and buy them yourself.
Exactly.
Don't expect somebody else to get them for you. That's the stuff we go wrong with. You've got no excuse. If I want to do something, I go and pay for it. That's what my constituents expect me to do when I'm on 100,000 quid a year.
Yeah.
They work an awful lot harder than me for an awful lot less than me. They expect you to buy your own bins.
I hear you.
So that's the stuff that's been going wrong.
All right. Well, listen, Carl Turner, a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much. He's a former Labour frontbencher and MP for Hull East. Thank you very much. All right, well, stay with me. First, let's have a look at some holiday sun. Let's check out the forecast.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there. An unsettled spell across central and southern Europe with some heavy showers and some thunderstorms. These will soon clear parts of Spain, moving into parts of France and also northern parts of Italy. Some real heavy downpours at times and some thunderstorms with some lightning and also some hail. But actually to the south of this rain band, across much of the Mediterranean, should be largely dry with some sunny spells. And that sunshine will continue into next week with temperatures widely in the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
There's a growing anti-marriage movement emerging in South Korea. Last month, a major pop star made headlines when she said, "If I don't want any children, why marry?" A view that is now being echoed by thousands of women. So this afternoon, we're asking, should women be turning away from marriage?
And you'll see that the birth rate in South Korea is absolutely catastrophically low. I think it's something like 0.7 or 0.8 children per women. It's still about 1.4 here, which is low, but obviously a lot higher. And the problem in South Korea specifically, and many Southeast Asian countries, is that whilst the world has modernized in some ways, so women now get great educations, there's a lot of pressure on them to have great careers, the pressure on them to do everything at home has not changed. So it's a really gendered society. Women are expected to do everything in the home.
We have to remember that men are women's apex predator. You are more likely to be killed by the man that you marry than any other 8 billion person on this planet. So it's one of those things where it's like it shouldn't be entered to lightly. And I think it's really important that women feel empowered. For the first time in history, we as women no longer rely on men for anything.
They're also women's greatest defenders, and we see that particularly teenage girls are much safer when they live with their father. They're much more likely to be protected from other predatory men.
You're
I mean,
more
you're shaking your
protected
head,
by women.
but that's what the statistics
No,
say.
you're more
And as for
protected by
not
women. No,
finding
well, you're reading.
What about
Hold
all
on,
the desk
Nadia, let
jobs,
Miriam finish
army,
talking.
bin men, all the jobs that men do that are absolutely crucial to society, that we as women would not be safe or able to exist if those men didn't do those jobs for us.
Okay,
But we could do
Nadia.
those jobs. We could do those
You
jobs
want to
if
fight
men
on the
didn't
front
exist.
line of
Like
the
that-
war?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Gosh, I can't believe it. We're nearing the end of the show. But at 7 on GB News this evening, it is Free Speech Nation with Josh Howie, and he joins us now. Josh, what is coming up on the show?
Where's Starmer? Where's Starmer? That is what Jews were shouting out at the rally that I've just come from. We have exclusive footage from that. That also ties into another exclusive. We have a study which is just about to come out which proves exactly where anti-Semitism comes from in this country. It's going to annoy a lot of people. And also, we have another exclusive. The Free Speech Union have done a deep dive into government disinformation. And you're not going to believe this, but it turns out that a lot of it's also coming from the same people pushing the Online Safety Act. We'll see you very soon.
Oh, I look forward to that. Thank you very much, Josh Howie. Remember, Free Speech Nation at 7. But now it's time for Supplement Sunday, the part of the show where my panel bring in other stories that they've seen in the papers throughout the week. Well, joining me now is former Foreign Office Minister and author Mark Fields, and also political commentator Stella Chantakayudu. Stella, your story, what have you found?
Oh, yes. So 26 women in High Barnet in North London, they built this housing development, and they all came together and they said, we don't want to grow old by ourselves, so we are all going to move in together in this community in High Barnet. I think it's called New Ground. A lovely story, and they all just seem to be having a great time.
They're only 50s, in their 50s as well. I might do that. They're probably sick of men.
There's hope for us all, isn't there? Yes. No. Mine's a little story actually on the Independent Online. It's actually saying that a lot of the efforts that have been made over the years to try and persuade young children and young people not to eat too much of bad food are failing. So I have to say, with a whole pack of donuts in the fridge at home and 2 teenagers, I can well understand that might be the case.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. I love a bit of bad food. Now listen, throughout the show I've been asking, is reform right to pledge migrant camps in green councils? I can't wait to see this. Well, let's see what people think. According to the results, 98% of you say yes. 92% of you say no. Well, I'm with the 98% that say yes. Absolutely, they should. Well, thank you so much to my brilliant panel. Former Foreign Office Minister and author Mark Field. Mark, thank you very much.
That's my pleasure. Thank you.
And also political commentator Stella Chantakayudu. Thank you very much, Stella. And as ever, a huge thank you to you at home for your company. It's been a pleasure as ever. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at midday. I'll leave you with the weather.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, it's feeling cool out there and wet and windy in the far northwest of Scotland, but gardeners beware. We're expecting a frost for some of us overnight. So looking at the bigger picture, we've got a ridge of high pressure extending over us. This area of low pressure will affect Scotland and run its way southwards as we go through this evening. So wet and windy conditions